Since the year 1909, there's always been a racing capital full of history in the heart of the Midwest. It all started with just 1 yard of bricks. This poignant venue serves as a pivotal turn in a season that remains as unpredictable as ever. And tonight, it serves as the 10th round of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series in Season 4. Welcome to the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and of course, welcome to our coverage of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series right here on MaxSpeedTV. Glad to have you once again as we cross the half-marker line of the campaign, where alongside Francisco Bacalhau atop the broadcast booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. We'll bring Francisco in just a couple of moments. He's currently settling something out as of the moment. Tonight's round is going to prove very important for a shift in this season. We've seen the first half. We've seen a lot of short track events, a lot of large super speedways, a lot of 1.5 milers with this NASCAR Next Gen car. Now we get to take it on a very peculiar course, much like Pocono. The same category, doesn't drive like your typical oval on the calendar. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to bring a lot of challenges for these drivers as we move forward. Of course, I mentioned first 2 words, since 1909. This place has a lot of history. We'll take a look first overhead. We'll look at our track map, of course, with images provided to us by Google Earth. And this Indianapolis Motor Speedway has endured it all since that year 1909, when it was built by only bricks alone. It has held a majority of large racing series across the world, internationally, and of course nationally here in the United States, most notably for the Indianapolis 500 that's held every single May for the IndyCar series. Of course, NASCAR still races here. They used to race on the oval configuration for the Brickyard 400. It started back in 1994, most notably known for Jeff Gordon winning that inaugural race. Right now, they use the road course setting, but still take the trip to the Brickyard every single year on the campaign. And also, Formula One was here for a while. Of course, they took away the Indianapolis race after a while of running at this famed track. But nonetheless, this place, a cathedral of speed in every which way. And it's going to mean that a lot of drivers here are going to be looking for the bragging rights. Say, hey, I won at Indianapolis. We've been here a couple of times before in this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. So, of course, there are some notes to be taken from Season 3 and Season 2. But like we'll explain to Francisco when we bring him in just a couple of moments, we'll describe just how different it is with this specific car at this track in this dynamic. It means that there is going to be something new to learn at some point in this race, regardless of the amount of notes that you've taken in previous races. You're going to find something new. You're going to find something peculiar, something you're going to have to learn and kind of get over that curve over the rest of this race. And we'll talk a lot about the details of how previous races have gone, what we're expecting here tonight from Indianapolis. So we're going to get through a lot of different topics throughout the drivers and, of course, throughout the field and when this race continues to develop. Let's look at the schedule, see exactly where we've been, where we are now, where we're going in the future. Of course, we've knocked down a bunch of rounds already. Loudon was a very crazy race just 1 week ago. Joe Sanchez was able to pick up his first win of the 2022 campaign. And now we head to the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway before we take a 1-week break. And then we'll be back the week after, April 27th, for Circuit of the Americas. And now we'll bring in Francisco Bacalhau. And there is one thing about this Indianapolis Motor Speedway that stands out from the rest. And I mentioned earlier, Pocono in that same category of tracks that are quite peculiar, but they still have a history of stock car oval racing. What are you expecting here with this new next-gen car tonight?
I mean, Indianapolis is a historical. Motorsports have been a pinnacle of here since 1909. We've had Indy. Then Formula One has run Grand Prix here, including counting the Indy 500 as a part of the World Championship Series. So, you know, when you talk Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it is very much in the whole realm of what people consider the Triple Crown. So, if you win here at Indianapolis, whether it's on the road course or in the big oval like we're racing here tonight, it is going to be very significant. But the oval has its own trick to it. When we've raced here on the oval with the previous gen cars, while they were running the high downforce or horsepower, we saw a lot of drafting, a lot of single file, very difficult to pass because you barely had any time on the brakes. With this new car, you'll still have some of the drafting features, but you'll still have to slow down for these corners because of the reduced downforce and the slightly increased horsepower. So I still think we're going to have some pretty decent action, possibly still seeing passing primarily made going into turn 1 and going into turn 3 as well. Those are usually where you want to pass anyways. But I think it's going to be interesting seeing the new car handle is because, as we know, the new car struggles a little bit with the lack of side force. It doesn't really exist with this car. So when you're going into the corners at such a high speed, it's very easy for the back end to want to step out, whether it's entering the corner because of the aerodynamics or off the corner when the diffuser kind of acts as a repellent for trying to keep the car straight.
Is going to be very interesting to say the least, and all the drivers lined up on the starting grid. So of course it is our time to take a look at the starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight from the Yard of Bricks and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. On pole will be California's own Daniel Michel in the 25. He lines up a 53.209. Good enough to get him the pole to lead everybody to the green flag tonight. And Joe Sanchez just came off victorious from Loudon, New Hampshire just 1 week ago. He's going to be looking to replicate that. He starts outside in P2.
Adam Alishire is going to be the highest starting of the Stocks Motorsports crew in the 3rd position. Alongside him, Eric Schaefer, the winner at Pocono for that matter. We'll see if he has the same luck here tonight.
We'll look back to the drivers in row number 3. Lawson Peel, he's been on fire the whole season, arguably the most consistent driver, no doubt. He starts inside P5 here in the 12 car. Lance Hill for Stocks Motorsports, he's been close to a win a couple of times through the ovals. He's got a win on a road course, but not on a 4-turn track. We'll see if he can do that tonight from 6.
Season 2 champion Scott Healy is going to be starting in P7 alongside him. One of the winners of this racetrack is going to be Brian M. Smith in that 8th position.
He's not the defending winner, but he has had some success, obviously, here at this track. Austin Reedy in the 11 will be 9th. Craig Lounsberger will be on his outside for the top 10.
Kevin D'Elia is going to be in the 11th position with Curtis Kelly with a solid qualifying in P12.
We'll look back to row number 7, Lee going to Tyler Murray. We'll talk about a quote from him that he expressed in practice a little bit later on, but he starts in 13th. Cody Kinsey will be alongside him to capitalize row 7, P14.
Jesse Prees with a solid 15th place qualifying with Christopher Bishop alongside in that 42 starting 16th.
We'll look back to row number 9 and previous winner this season at Auto Club, Mark E. Harris will roll off 17th. AJ Green, the defending champion. He's got a lot of positions to make up tonight on the green flag. He starts 18th.
Jacob Smith returns here tonight. He's going to be in 19th position. Time set alongside him, Brandon T. Banks.
We've seen Jacob Smith do well here at Indianapolis. We'll see if he can replicate that as well. Tristan Bailey returns back in the 26. He starts in 21st. Tony Kivett will be in 22nd. We'll roll through the rest of the field, the last couple of rows before we get to Nicholas Vizzuti in the 75. He is 27th. The last one in this field. Of course, a lot of them near the rear did not elect to take time in qualifying, so just going to have to line up the rear and see what they can do. Maybe anticipating some opening lap jitters, maybe a caution in between the run to the green flag and, of course, the entrance in to turn 1. Let's take a look at the weather just before we get started. It's a very hot track temperature, not in the triple digits, but very close to it. 98 degrees on the track, on the asphalt, 76 degrees in the air, no humidity, winds barely to the south at 4 to 5 miles an hour. And we have a partly cloudy afternoon in sim, similar to the conditions we've seen in prior Indianapolis races. So no surprise, it's the same this time around. We've got 2 Camaros on the front row. Daniel Michel, Joe Sanchez, the 25 and the 55 to the green flag. We're underway from Indy.
And as they work their way down the back straightaway for the first time tonight, Kenneth, you're going to see these guys try to get single file in the straightaways. You lose too much ground. Look at them. Lawson Peel back there trying to make it 3 wide for a brief second to gain the spot there. It looks like on Brian M. Smith, they're going to be side by side through 3 and 4. Car way up the track, and a car gets into Brian M. Smith. 1 car near into the wall. They're going to be 3 wide almost into turn 4. They are going to be, for that matter. So 3 wide through turn 4. That gets resolved very quickly, but some chaos. You saw cars trying to make aggressive moves while at the same time getting single file, and that can be very hectic.
That was Lance Hill and his GoPro Chevy Camaro that got all out of shape there in the entrance to turn 3. Had to correct the car and check up, washed up the track, and allowed everybody to slide through. This time, Craig Launslager, the one to the inside, trying to make that move complete. So Hill falls a couple of positions short to start this race. So far, the leaders have been quick underway. Look at Brian Smith almost lose the car there at a turn 2. A couple of more drivers having trouble. We're 3 wide as Smith is stuck in the middle.
It looked like Preece had a problem back there. Perhaps he got loose off the corner and had the car slide all the way down to the inside, but he stays pointed in the right direction. We stay under the green flag for now. But one thing you'll see as this race goes on, Kenneth, and we talked about this, when it comes to the Indianapolis 500 with the Indy cars, you might see some of these guys snake trailing, trying to break the draft down the front straight. We haven't seen too much of it yet, but don't be surprised if on later restarts or later on in this race, when it matters most, if you see guys trying to go all the way down to that pit wall to try and break the draft.
Seen a lot of drivers do that in real life, and of course in this sim with this next-gen car and with the diffuser, it cleans up the air on the rear end of these race cars and allows the toe to be much larger than it has ever been in years prior. There's Eric Schaefer getting all out of shape there, 1 and 2, and we saw that in practice, Francisco. A lot of competitors getting very unhappy with that first section of the racetrack. Of course, we've seen drivers get out of shape in 3 and 4 to follow on the other side, going to the front straightaway in the start-finish line. But most notably, when you make that first dive into turn 1, and when you enter into that mini chute that transfers to turn 2, this car does not want to stay tucked on that white line all the way on the very bottom. And Tyler Murray, remember we mentioned him as Eric Schaefer goes hard into the outside wall. They're at a turn 4. First caution will wave. I see CJ Munier in it. Jesse Preece might have had a hit there. That's Cody Kinsey in the 93 who gets heavy left front damage, but it is the 22, Eric Schaefer, in trouble. We saw him loose in 1 and 2. Had to pick up the car that time. Lost it completely.
That thing shot to the outside wall, Kenneth. That was a hard hit. We're going to get a look at it, and I think it was probably exactly what we were just talking about, a factor of just getting loose in the corner. And right there, you see he's going through the short chute into turn 4. He's going to just run like normal, but the car steps away, and he overcorrects it hard into the wall passenger side, thankfully, but a hard hit there. I believe that's Jesse Preece that went into the side of him. No, it actually wasn't. It was somebody else, I believe, CJ Munier. And indeed, it was. And here you see the 93 of Kinsey involved. You see a couple other guys. Scott Healy taking a pit road for evasive action. We're right on board, actually, here with CJ Munier. You see he's going to see over there, the 25 get loose, the smoke starts coming up, cars are rushing their way towards the scene, and he actually gets tagged from behind, I believe by Preece, that is, and that's what sends him spinning. And surprised he has no hood off that contact. It looks like he got the rear, didn't hit anything else, so interesting way to pick up damage.
It definitely is. Doesn't look like the hood will be the first place to be hit, but it is now off. And it's the same deal for your defending champion, AJ Green, who also got caught up in the first lap scuffle. And now he's in trouble there. There's the damage on the front end, most notably no damage on the rear, so it looks like he'll be okay on that route. But of course, the motor, more important than really any part of this race car here, it does not want to lose a lot of that straightaway speed as a couple of drivers now come in for pit road service, a lot of it for damage. What I was about to mention, though, before that caution with the 22, I was about to mention that Tyler Murray, the league owner, I mentioned that we were going to talk about him a little bit later, his expressions in practice. He said that this car felt like a dump truck on ice. And that might be the perfect description, Francisco, because this car is very heavy, but then it gets loose all of a sudden. You have no side force to pick you back up, so it probably is the right way. It's kind of like Mario Kart, maybe.
It really kind of is. It's very inconsistent. I'll give it that. It's 1 second you feel like the car does have the grip to go through the corner. The next, it's just sliding like there's no downforce at all. And we know that's not true. We know it's the side force, but when you try and catch it, immediately there's grip all over the place. The grip you were looking for in the first place, and it'll yeet into the wrong direction that you do not want it to go in. And that's how you end up with this situation. It's just a constant battle of fighting grip versus no grip. And it's not really so much with the aero, just the tires. They 1 second they're fine, the next second they're not. And it's very hard to get a tell on just when exactly it'll grip. We do have some pit stops here that I did see. We have Austin Reedy that came down pit road. You see right there, I believe that is Kevin D'Elia in pit road. Curtis Kelly also had come by. There you see Reedy there. So a couple of pit stops early on in this race. I don't believe this is going to make too big of a difference. Of course, Austin Reedy was high up in the running order, so he might just lose track position there, but I'm not sure exactly what the overall game is here as far as a strategy call. This race should be as simple as possible. It's a 2-stop race. You go about 25 to 30 laps on each stint and make it a 2-stop race. But if a caution presents itself at the proper time, it might affect that strategy.
We've seen both sides of the card get flipped either way here at this Indianapolis Motor Speedway in prior races. You think back to Season 3, a very clean race, and all three of the races in past history from Season 2 now to Season 4, they've all been the same length, 80 laps, apart from Season 3 that got extended to 83 because of a green-white checkered attempt. But most of them have seen different results, at least in prior years. Of course, Season 3 had a very crazy run to the finish under green-white checkered. Colin Forster had picked up his 3rd straight win of the season after pretty much starting the season in the best way possible at the Auto Club Speedway, getting his first one, and then just continued that on. That was the last of his triple in a row. And then, of course, Season 2, we had a really great strategy event, and it led to Brian M. Smith dominating in the final laps, finding the right place in that pit window to get ahead of everybody else by the time things cycled out near the end. And then, of course, Smith was able to walk away with that win. And we've also seen 2 very different placements of this Indianapolis race. Last season, it was race number 3. The season before that, it was way deeper in the regular season. And this one is similar to Season 2 in a way, Francisco, just very deep, kind of halfway into that regular season where you're starting to think about the playoffs a little more than you would at the start. So pretty much we've seen every which way. We've seen every possibility here in Indianapolis, and that's what makes it so unpredictable as well. We don't know really what's going to be dealt us here tonight.
Yeah, we've had this race as a playoff race. We've had it early in the season. Now it's in the middle of the. It's really been all over the place, and it kind of just stays on the calendar. It's like, again, it's one of those big races. Regardless of what layout you're running with what cars, if you can get a win at this racetrack, it means a lot. You know the history that's associated with this racetrack, and of course the Indianapolis 500 is in just a month away, and I know you're probably hoping for Jimmy Johnson to have a good run there.
I hope so. It's his first time taking a trip to the Indianapolis 500 after many years when he was running in NASCAR, for them clamoring for him to go there and try the double duty. Nonetheless, we're going to go green flag racing once again, lap number 6 of 80, and it's an even start for the front row. Michel not able to run away from Joe Sanchez quite yet on the entrance to turn 1. That car going to wiggle out to turn 2, and that short shoe Lawson is going to catch up, but a caution will come out before any of that is able to happen. This time, it's Jesse Prees in the 00 that finds himself with smoke coming out of the rear end of that Camaro.
Yeah, this is a not so pretty turn 1 once more, and getting a look at it now, Kenneth, it looks like Prees just got loose on his own entering turn 1 and dipped the tire in the grass, and well, actually from Jacob Smith and hard head on into the outside wall.
I found a lot of help indeed from that Ford Mustang. You'll take a look at it here from the overhead look. This is just behind Brandon T. Banks. There's Austin Reedy, CJ Munier. Normal restart procedures, but then Smith is going to dive in here. There's the 15 on the bottom end of your screen. He'll dive in just a little too deep and slam into the 00. Then Preece catches the grass, and then the car immediately reverts to the outside wall. And a very harsh hit for the Deere Chevy Camaro after slightly almost missing the first caution there out of turn 4, though, which involved the 22 of Eric Schaefer. So there's Preece's car still smoking, but luckily he's able to bring it to pit road without any large events happening after the crash, and so he won't be able to make that tow. Good news, though, for him. He can still equip a fast repair that is given to every driver here in every single race. So Preece will be down on pit road. There's Michel and company. They're just trying to catch up to the pace car. They're trying to find where it's at so we can officially settle down the rest of the field on this second caution of the 80-lap race here from Indianapolis. And Francisco, I told you a little bit before we went live, the cleanliness of these Indianapolis races. Of course, we've talked about green-white checkers in Season 3, strategy races in Season 2, and although it kind of sounds chaotic from the first glance, or at least the first hear, these races have been very clean. We've seen a total of 6 cautions over the past 2 events in total combined. So both of them 80-lap races, one extended to 83, but we've seen 3 cautions in each of those, and now we've already seen 2 of them in the first 9 laps.
Yeah, basically the way you can summarize it is that we've had a Brickyard 400 full race distance with 6 cautions, which is pretty impressive to say the least. It does indicate that there's a lot of clean racing, but a lot of action as well, because those races you can vividly remember exactly how they went down. So it's not been short of action, but so far not quite 10 laps into this race and we've gone through 2 caution flags. That's not exactly it's not exactly a good indicator, as we saw last week when you get into a race like this, if this becomes the tone. But you gotta have an understanding and a belief that the track will play to its normal characteristics sooner than later, right? Because normally that happens with a racetrack like this. You might get a couple of cautions squeezed together, but at some point or another, you're going to get green flag action, because if there's a racetrack that plays towards that sort of environments, that sort of nature of the way the races go, it's going to happen at some point. It might not happen early, but it might happen towards the end. And as a driver, I'd rather have that be towards the end. I'd rather have the beginning of the race be this way, because even though it might upset the sort of vibe you have at the beginning of the race, I definitely don't want the end of the race being with a bunch of restarts. I definitely want to be in control in the front of the field.
That is definitely true, and also you got to think about the fact that when you have caution so late in the race, it disrupts every single strategy that anybody can ever put out there. We've seen it happen before, where races have gone green from start all the way to 99%, maybe 99.9% of a race almost complete. Drivers have their strategies in lock. They know what they're going to do. They know what they've been working for. They know the results if they get out of pit road and cycle in the right way. And then the caution comes out to remove all of that and all of what they've been working for. It's kind of like you write down a large essay on the table and then it immediately just gets scrapped into the shredder right before you finish, right before you're about to turn the assignment in. So we've seen it happen before, but I think I agree with your point, Francisco. Rather have these cautions early than have them very late in the race. It hasn't affected the top 2 or really a lot of drivers up in the front of the field per se. Michel and Sanchez have kept the same 2 positions since the drop of the green on lap 1, and a majority of the field have kind of switched here and there, maybe some position losses or gains, but nothing too significant to call home about. They're still aiming to have the progress for the next 70 laps or so. So Daniel Michel, the pole sitter, will again lead the field to green. And what was interesting there, Francisco, was on the last restart, Sanchez was able to pick up on what the 25 was putting down and was actually staying even with them door to door into turn 1. Probably not the best line you could take, because that outside lane isn't really the fastest here at Indianapolis, but having himself there on a restart is letting that 25 know, hey, you're trying the best you can. You're trying to throw me and the rest of the field off, but we're not buying it.
Yeah, usually the leader does have an advantage because they know when they're going to go. And there's such a wide restart zone from when the pace car leaves the racetrack to whenever the green lights turn on. That gives the leader an even bigger hand at trying to get a big lead. And that's what we normally see at most tracks. But sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes the second place car can time it to where he can stay side by side. And that's really as best as it can get. You're not going to really get it much better than that most of the time. So the 55 is trying his best. Well, we hope for his sake that he can get as good of a restart as he did last time and try and stay side by side and see if he can challenge into turn 1. But Michel's going to be hoping to try and get it clear before turn 1 so he can run his line like normal. The pace car is going to make its way to pit road. The field's going to be in the hands of that 25. We'll see when he decides to go. And right there, you notice a little shift in the car. He decides to accelerate, and he's already clear going into turn 1. We're going to see if he moves up to try and defend it against the 55. He won't. 55 tries to mount back a challenge, and he cannot really He can't really get to the quarter panel. They'll get single file through the front portion of the field. A lot of single file. Curtis Kelly almost getting into the wall out of turn 1, but most of the field at the front, at least, is going to work their way clean through the first half lap.
You saw Curtis Kelly whip out the rear end. It was the same deal for your race leader, Daniel Michel, coming out of turn 1. The car whipped sideways, but found a way to keep it straight. And now he's still in the race lead. Sanchez has followed through to second. Austin Peel has now settled into the 3rd position. Here's a battle so far for the top 7. There's Curtis Kelly on the very outside. Brian Smith looking underneath. Now Lance Hill, but Smith is going to get turned into the outside wall immediately. What happened there?
I was just watching that too, Kenneth, and I can't believe what just happened. That was a very hard crash for the 78 of Smith, and it looked like he might have gotten tapped in the right rear. I'm not quite sure exactly who it is. It might be Kevin D'Elia that got into the right rear of him. Lance Hill had an issue up there in front. You're going to see him get loose, and they try to approach the corner. I think D'Elia thought they were going to be side by side, and just Smith tried to give him more room, and just miscommunication right there. He didn't really go all the way to the bottom. D'Elia not expecting him to enter in the middle, and That's kind of what happens there. This was precisely the shot I was looking at. See, Smith was loose there, but Lance had a bigger moment in turn 3. He saves it. He's fine. And then right here, D'Elia gets the outside of Smith, and Smith doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. D'Elia's not expecting that. And a close call there for that car. I'm not sure who that is, but that was a close call, but still a hard hit for Smith.
This is not what Smith was looking forward to at all. He was not expected to look into the outside wall before he could see the checkered flag. Luckily, he does have a fast repair. He was able to get the car back to rolling condition. But obviously, a destroyed Toyota Camry on both the front and the rear. I think all sides included as well. And that shot, at least from the top, Francisco, gave you a look at how one thing led to another with Lance Hill checking up, getting loose. It kind of brought everybody together in that specific pack. And then, obviously, D'Elia got into the 78, so brought him around into the outside wall. That is the second time, at least this race, that we've seen a crash happen in that short chute going into turn 4, and then back to the front straight away. That first one, of course, with Eric Schaefer. So there's Smith coming on a pit road. That's Michael Newbrough to move ahead. There's Mark Harris. You can see a couple of others also coming down. I believe Cody Neal is another one to enter in. Jacob Smith in the 15. We saw him tag into Jesse Priest. There's Scott Healy in the 64. He spent a good amount of this race in the opening 12 in the rear of the field, kind of dodging all the bullets. He's luckily been able to escape most of them, but he doesn't want to count his chances, at least for the moment. It is still very early in this race. That's a big shunt, though, Francisco, to that 78 of Brian M. Smith, and I think it's just an addition to what's been not the best season for this 78. We've seen him do well, perform well, but there's always been something that struck him out. Some bad luck that's always hit him at some point in a race, whether it's in the beginning, in the middle, or near the very end. Things have just not fallen in the right way for Smith this season.
Yeah, things have not exactly been looking good for the driver of the 78 this season, and not really too much fault for that matter. It's just, you know, just circumstances of these races have not fallen his way for whatever the reason may be in a particular week. And he's been fast, like you said, and we know he's a proven winner. Just things have not worked out for him, and you know, part of you as a competitor hopes that it would work out for him, so we can see him up in the front challenging for these race wins, like we know he's capable of. But you're not really sure what exactly is going on from time to time. Obviously, today was not really a fault of his own, just circumstances early in the race that are piling on. But you know, you hope Brian Smith can rally back from this and try and put on a challenge before the race is over. But I will say, Kenneth, we've already reached the average. You said we've had 6 cautions the last 2 races. That's an average of 3. And we've already hit 3 today, and we're not a quarter-way distance.
Yep, it's a very different race here from Indianapolis. And I guess the racing gods are listening to me when I said that Indianapolis has given us every type of race. It's going to give us a different one this evening here in 2022 for Season 4, as we are ready to double them up and get us back to green flag racing. The biggest change is up at the front. Joe Sanchez is now taking control of the race. He knows the head of Daniel Michel before the caution waved officially at the timing loop. So the 55, your winner from 1 week ago, will now control the field back to the yard of bricks when the pace car ultimately makes its shift down to pit road. And touching back on Brian M. Smith, last season, it only took him 6 races to get to victory lane, or rather 7. It was Watkins Glen round number 7 where he found his way, dominated the entire field that race, and just pretty much walked away with it. There was nothing else you could really say about how Brian M. Smith did. He did amazingly well at that point, got to victory lane, and then of course added a couple of wins to his tally to follow. In this season, we've gone 9 races, and he has been winless ever since. So it's been tough for that 78. He does have the fast repair. You can see him faintly on the top side, just underneath the top ticker there behind Mark Harris. So he's got a lot of work to do now, but obviously gonna have a keen eye on his race car just to make sure he doesn't get any more damage and he doesn't spend any more time on pit road. So Joe Sanchez will be your leader as of lap number 15 when we get to the green. Daniel Michel, your pole sitter, has shuffled back to second outside of row 1. And you'll find Lawson Peel and Adam Alashire, the 2 that are group up for row number 2. It's Craig Lautenslager and Curtis Kelly back in row number 3. And then it'll be Kevin D'Elia in the 53, Lance Hill in the 38, all the way back to 8th place. And Hill, he got very loose out of turn 3. He's got a bit of right side damage, but we'll see if we can have a clean leader start this time by. Hopefully no issues there from the Stonks Motorsports Camaro. So the pace car makes its way down, and Now it's all about the chase to the yard of bricks to complete lap number 14. Michel and Sanchez still the front row, both gridlocked, this time opposite sides of the road. Green flag back in the air.
And a good start there for Sanchez. It's going to bring Peel with them. We'll see if Peel get cleared for second going into turn 1. He just might, and he does. So Michel's going to drop all the way back to third. It looks like Alishar is going to go to third, and a move out of turn 1, trying to go to the inside of turn 2. Michel sticking the nose in there. He's going to be side by side with Lawson Peel. He doesn't quite have the grip in the corner, but he's going to probably try the side draft here. He's not really being aggressive with it. They are remaining side by side, and that's allowing Joe Sanchez to pull away just a bit on this straightaway. Alishar is going to pull up to those two, and Michel gets clear into turn 3.
That was a beautiful side draft effort from the 25. Was able to reel the 12 rather back in it. He was able to make that pass at least back over to continue in P2. What a jump from that second row was on the restart. Peel and Alishar really surged ahead of everybody else. Schaefer gets loose near the rear of the field. He's able to keep it straight. One of the many saves we've seen out of that 22 this season. We will stay green, but like I was talking about, that second row on the restart, they had a huge jump, and they're not stopping anytime soon. They're reeling in the top 2.
Kenneth, that's very impressive what we see out of the 22 is Schaefer. He's had many loose cars this season, and a car that's very hard to save. It's very hard for the average person to save this race car, and he's just done it repeatedly. So it's you can't discredit the wheelman behind that driver, the 22, being able to save the race cars. And you see right now we're on board with the 12 of Peel. Had a big run going into turn 3, but decided not to take it. Trying to be a little bit patient with that 25, trying to not exactly push the issue. See Curtis Kelly wide off of turn 3, almost into the outside wall. He's going to now be under fire by his teammate Lance Hill. They're not his teammates, excuse me, but they're going to be side by side there. Lance Hill on the inside. There you see Tristan Bailey moving to the inside. He's going to try and make the move now towards turn 1. He's going to get the move past on Lance Hill. He's going to have help from Austin Reedy. Those teammates now, those teammates are on the inside, are going to move into turn 1. You see Loose, as he carried a lot of speed in the corner. He's still loose, but he's going to try and stay hanging around the outside. Kelly dives back to the bottom. And it looks like Kelly's going to try and take the spot away, and he does, but caution flag is out. It looks like an incident out of the back of the field exiting turn 1. You saw the smoke right up there. Looks like it might have been the 6 of Michael Newbrawl.
We'll find out it was indeed this driver of the 6. Whether it was somebody else, here's the 6 coming onto front straightaway. That is entrance to turn 1. We'll take a look at maybe it happened a little bit up the road here. There was some smoke, and there was a car up ahead in trouble near the outside wall, and another one that had just gone around, so it was not the driver of the number 6. In fact, may have been the 15 of Jacob Smith, and there he is, slammed the outside wall on that chute as he was working to the inside, and it looked like Brian Smith had just overdriven turn 1. 15 got loose on the exit to the chute, got the car loose, overcorrected, and then descends it into the wall, and that brings out the caution once more.
2 separate incidents with the Smiths going into turn 1. You see right here, Jacob pressurizing the 78 into a mistake, and I don't think there was any contact. And oh my God, the airtime that the 78 had there, and right there, Jacob just trying to keep the car under his control and couldn't quite do so. And he's going to hit the wall and spin around. But let's go on board with the 78. I don't think there was contact between him and Freeze, and a little bit of contact there with the rear bumper. Freeze kind of sending him into that corner. And look how far sideways that car got in the air. I think if we could get a still frame of that, that would just go to show just how aggressively the car hit the wall. I mean, to go on 2 tires up on the racetrack when you slam the wall like that, kind of Lightning McQueen-esque, it is got to be a hard hit.
Yeah, and it's also not a good look to the race car either. The slam to the outside wall sends Smith back to pit road in his car, and he is now 1 lap down, the first of 2 cars more than 1 lap down on the racetrack. Tony Kibbett is 16 laps down and counting. It looked like Kibbett was not able to make the green flag and the start of the race, unfortunately, so he's out of it. He's in P26, and looks like he will not return most likely for that 76 of Kibbett. Unfortunate to see him already out of this race very early before we could even get it started. But Smith now 1 lap down, looking to unlap himself, and I think, actually no, just DNF'd his car, so sent it to the garage and sent it out of the race. So once again, it's another week where Smith has had a strong car. Smith has had a promising beginning, and it gets completely knocked out very quickly, and Smith not going to be able to contend for the rest of the race. Hopefully we get to see him sooner than later hop back on track, but for now his car damaged. He's already a lap down, the only one a lap down here that's still in the running order, so looks like he immediately called it quits. Will decide to wait for 2 weeks when we get to the second road course of the season at Circuit of the Americas. Once again,
hard for him. It's not been the season he's wanted. We know, again, we talked about this when he was involved in that first crash. Brian Smith, we know what he's able to bring. We know he's able to win races, and we know that he's capable of being up front every single week. But with this next gen, it's not been what he's desired. It's been a struggle for the driver of the 78. We've seen a couple of guys that have been able to kind of transfer the success from the Gen 6 on over to the next gens, and then a couple of new guys have kind of made their names known, like Lawson Peel. He won a couple times last season, but it's really been his season so far. And you know, it's like drivers like Kyle Benson as well have struggled. You know, guys that you think of in the past have been successful in the Cup Series, just haven't quite been there. So it's not just Brian M. Smith. He's not exactly alone on. So to some extent, it's kind of really been a light switch, if you will.
It definitely has. And it looked like ever since the 4-Wide Cup Series decided to make the switch to this next-gen car, everything just completely went out of whack. And we've seen a lot of the field still trying to get to grips with this thing and still trying to find the nuances and what they can do to be fast and be competitive here. We've seen some that have taken the stride better than others, most notably that 12 of Lawson Peel, who has been on fire this season and looks to be an early championship favorite. But for many, they've just still tried to find what they can do to keep this car collected, what they can do to be fast. And it's very hard to not try and take notes from Gen 6, because that's what you've known for the past couple of years, ever since 2019. But you just can't do it despite the urges. And that's what's been the problem for many, just trying to get accustomed to this brand new car that we're going to see for not sure how many years in the future for NASCAR. But for now, this is our present. This is the current car that they're going to use. And obviously what 4Wide will decide, or we'll see if they continue it for seasons forward. But for now, this is the mainstay car in this series. So 60 laps left. By the time we get back to this restart on lap number 21 of 80, Joe Sanchez, still the race leader. It has still been the same two drivers in first and second, although they have switched already once now. Joe Sanchez now the leader, Michelle into second. Adam Alashire and Lawson Peel will look to try again. What was a very successful restart for them going into turn one. Maybe they'll try to get a little bit better, maybe challenge the leaders a little bit more. Curtis Kelly lines up the top five, Craig Laumslugger in sixth, and then Austin Riddy has moved up to seventh. And what a job to move up through the field for Tristan Bailey. The 26 started in 21st tonight. He's already up plus 13, our biggest mover so far here from Indianapolis. So we'll see if he can continue to move up through the field despite getting loose, as he was 3 wide just a little bit earlier in our last run. So it's all about the move to the front straightaway and back to the Yard of Bricks. We'll see if we can line up our longest green flag run of the evening. We have yet to go at least more than 5 laps without a caution flag on the racetrack in every given direction, turns 1 all the way through turn number 4. We'll see if we can get a cleaner restart and run this time by. Help on the outside lane. Alashire trying to give the push to the 25, but to no avail. Sanchez will clear the 25. Same deal for the 12 of Lawson. Peels the field. Will chase back to turn 1. And Laumslugger's already in the outside wall.
Crash in the back, no caution. Yeah, big pile up going into 1. And now the yellow flag waves. Cars all over the place into turn 1. Kenneth, what happened here?
There was a big mishap there on the restart. I can only assume probably a large checkup. There's Christopher Bishop. It looks like the toe was knocked out of that. He's going to get an extra hit as Prees was trying to merge back onto the apron. The 42 heavily destroyed on the front end. Also take a bit of left rear damage there on his Camaro. Now we're going to try to answer the question, what happened on this restart? It started with the 13, Francisco, and I could only think maybe just drivers checking up, or maybe somebody got loose, maybe somebody made contact. Oh, and there's it right there. The 71 just made a slight touch to the 13, got him out of shape, but he was okay. And that's just everybody that goes around trying to avoid it.
Yeah, that really blocks off the track when you have cars side by side. Going into turn 1, trying to all funnel down, and you remove a lane rather early into the corner, and people aren't expecting. You see just side-to-side contact, and very slowly turn the 13 up, and it nozzled the field down towards the bottom, and cars with different agendas just going all over the place, cars ending up in the grass, cars going up towards the wall. And then they all got to merge back into turn at the exit of turn 1, which was another issue. We saw almost contact with a couple of cars there. We're riding on board now. Let's see what happens here. This is Kevin D'Elia we're watching with, and there's the crash. He's going to kind of try and part the seas a little bit. A couple of guys were able to Harris as well, just ahead, but so far, Kenneth, I believe that's our, fourth or fifth caution of the race already.
Yeah, pretty much so. Way more than the previous 2 races we've had on the yellow tally. Does a look for Prees, who just couldn't do anything there as Bishop got into the side of him, and that's what resulted in him being so low on the racing surface, trying to get back to shape as he hops over the curve there. That's the last corner of the Indianapolis road course. Still not updated here on iRacing. Looking to find that a little bit later on in 2022. But there is Prees moving back up the track, giving the shot to Bishop, obviously not knowing that Bishop was there by the time he had made his way onto the asphalt once again. And we have the big one here from Indianapolis to strike here on lap number 23. So majority of the field taking their trips to pit road. Of course, all of them not really for strategy, all of them just to fix their cars. There's CJ Munier in the 89, going to try to remedy his issue. The 13 of Lounslugger, who had a solid race, a very clean one to start up until that slight contact with Curtis Kelly that sent him into the outside wall. And really in that scenario, you're trying to either side draft or get some sort of arc into turn 1. We've seen many competitors do that where they kind of swing their cars out just a little bit higher than usual. Even if there's somebody right next to them, they still try to make sure it stays clean, but they want to arc just so they can get a good entry into the first corner and then make sure they can make the line and not overshoot and go straight understeer into the outside wall. And it looked like that may have been what Lounslugger was doing, but from my perspective, at least from the looks of it, it just appears to be a side draft gone wrong and just a miscommunication between the two trying to line up turn 1.
Yeah, just they ended up merging on each other, and from there it was probably not going to be a very pretty result, and indeed it wasn't. So they ended up making contact. Around they went, and it took a couple cars out. Forced some to maybe use a fast repair, maybe others didn't have to. So we'll hope to see at least a green flag lap or 2. It's been a while since underway as we're past the quarter distance mark, just past 80 miles complete in this event. The pace car going to exit towards pit road again. It's been the safest place all race. Joe Sanchez is going to lead the field to the green flag. There he goes. Peel tries to get a launch as well. He's going to be side by side with the 25 of Michel. Michel trying to creep up to the inside. There you see the side draft now. Michel's now going to try and move to second, but he backs out of it and allows Peel to come down to the bottom and take second place away. They see Reedy loose off. Saves it as he tried to go to the inside of Alishire. He's going to be back, pointing in the right direction. He's still loose, sliding the car all over the place. We're still not sure if he has it under control, but it looks like he has it.
It was a continuous drift there through 1 and 2 for Austin Riddy. He's able to man the car back to straight. There's Scott Healy on the inside to make a pass complete as the 11 has since now fallen all the way back to the exit of the top 10. There's a look at the field shuddering through turns 3 and 4. And Lawson Peel has moved up to second, has cleared the way ahead of Daniel Michel. And now all he's got to do is just catch up to the 55. That was a gorgeous exit out of turn 4. This may be the draft move to set him up for turn 1. Here comes Peel to the inside for the lead.
And he has a big run too. He might just get clear for turn 1. He does. Sanchez allows the 12 to take the lead, so Lawson Peel is going to go to the point, and he's going to have a couple cars behind him trying to pass him for that lead, but we'll see what happens in the meantime. For now, move him up to P1, and the caution comes out. You see a car stopped right there on the inside of the entry to turn 2. That is going to be Tyler Murray.
Tyler Murray, league owner, around in the same place he called a dump truck on ice. As this car goes for a spin, looks like not too much damage there, only spare for a little bit of the left side and the rear end. But it looks like the bright blue and yellow Chevrolet Camaro in trouble this time in the short shoot between turns 1 and turns 2. Here's a little look of where it all started. The car just hops out of shape there in 1. This is just in front of Austin Riddy, who did the same thing, but saved the car there, and then Healy in the wrong place, wrong time, slightly tapped him, and the 8 goes for a quick 360. He's able to save it, so nobody else gets collected, but obviously that is enough for the admins and race control of iRacing to throw a yellow flag.
And there you see, just right there, steps out, clips the grass. He's loose the whole way, and then around he goes with the help of Healy. And he was kind of right there on the edge of the racetrack slash being off the track, but iRacing, like you said, decided it was enough for the caution flag and put us back under yellow after completing a single lap under the green flag. So we did get one, but immediately it was just over the quota. So now, Kenneth, with this caution, I believe we've reached that number. We reached number 6, which is the same amount that we've had in the last 2 races in total.
That's certainly not great to hear, especially given the fact that we just came off of a caution-filled evening at New Hampshire. Things did not go well for many drivers on that specific night. Unfortunately, things have carried over into this Indianapolis race, and we remain under yellow once again. So nobody in the field, at least in the front, have taken a trip down to pit road. We are going to expect that at some point, regardless of if we get a long green flag run or not. We are expecting the field to come in for service because they cannot make it all the way on fuel, and obviously tires are a good thing to have, especially when they're new. Got a couple of drivers already willing to take it and some fuel to spare as well. The 64 of Healy, maybe some damage repair, but for the most part, that could be a strategy call that makes sense near the end of the race and just could give them a little more insurance. But as for the ones in the front, none of them are electing to strike. And Francisco, with 75% fuel, of course, these next gens do have a little larger fuel tank than the Gen 6 counterparts of previous years, but you can still go around maybe 30-35 laps. It seems to be a good range at this large 2.5-mile oval to go under green. When do you expect the majority of the field to come down, especially the leaders, at this point when we're getting so many yellows?
So what I have noticed with these new cars is that even with the slightly larger tank, for some reason they don't use that much more fuel or much less. They probably consume the same amount. So an interesting point there, an extra gallon or so, but the same distance that it reaches you. But that should mean that we have a general 30-32 lap window, which is what we've historically seen here at Indianapolis. Most of the field hasn't pitted yet because we've been circulating under caution, so it wouldn't surprise me if most of these guys still have close to half a tank left in their cars, which means if we get enough green flag laps, that's probably close to 15 laps away. But if we stay under the caution flag, this might just be one stop whenever everybody decides to pull the trigger, which we don't know when that's going to be. It's going to come down to how many green flag laps these guys get in.
And obviously with the fact that we've got 80 laps here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it does give the opportunity for maybe some guys to maybe take it halfway and be able to save if we continue to get yellows, or just many of them will probably elect to go at lap 50 and after to just secure that the fuel is okay all the way to the checkered flag, and they won't have to worry about that. The biggest thing they'll have to really worry about is the tires, and of course how long they can keep their equipment without any damage, because like we've seen so far here tonight, it is very easy to step this car out of its place, and it's very easy to smack the outside wall, or even worse, get into somebody else while you're trying to save your race car. So we're going to get the 1 to green signal once again from the iRacing official pace car. We are just about 12 to 11 laps away from the official halfway mark tonight. Of course, glad that you're with us here on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacalhau along with you for the ride. We'll be covering the rest of this 4-Wide Racing Cup season, much like we've been doing since the drop of the green at Daytona. And it's been a wild ride, to say the least. A lot of parity, a lot of different winners, a lot of great racing, but unfortunately, we've yet to see any long green flag runs here tonight from the Brickyard. We're going to line them up here with 2 of the strongest drivers so far in this race, Lawson Pio, Joe Sanchez to your front row. So now, Francisco, it looks like row number 2 may have the biggest advantage out of anyone in the field. I'm not sure whether it was just Alashire and Peel hitting their marks in the right places, but at least from what I've noticed, that second row on the restart looks to have the advantage over the guys in the front, because while that outside or inside lane, depending on who's the leader, has to play a lot of guesswork, that second row kind of has it mostly eliminated because they've got the view of the front row on their windshield. And with that jump from Lawson Peel, that tells me that maybe Michel, Alashire, all those guys who are in row 2, it seems like a little bit of a negative point, but it's probably a big positive once you go up through the gears.
Yeah, and part of it has to do with that big draft that these cars have, because the draft is kind of a little bit bigger than it has been with the old cars. Even though you have low downforce and the higher horsepowers, the draft is probably still as prominent, if not more prominent, than it ever was prior to that. So if you're in that second row and and you get a good enough run off the corner and you don't have anybody holding you back, you might just go up there and challenge the leader. It's not gonna, the air isn't going to exactly push them away. You're going to be able to turn left or turn right depending on the circumstance and get to the quarter panel of the car and pull them back. The green flag's out. Peel's going to accelerate, going to get to the line first. He is clear for the top spot. We're going to see if Michel tries to get in, and indeed he does. He'll move down to the bottom racetrack, or not Michel, excuse me, that's Sanchez that'll move down to the second spot. There's Michel in third, holding off. Alishire is trying to settle down into fourth and just might get a nose ahead of that car right there, Lance Hill. And oh, he's going to get loose off the corner. Alishire slides side. He saves it before the grass. What an impressive save there.
Beautiful job from Alishire. The problem is he's 3 wide. There is a look at Cody Kinsey, who goes just on top, and the 26 of Tristan Bailey will also make a charge to the outside, although that would not work. Both of them push understeer here out of the corner into the short chute, and Alishire will slightly shuffle back to P6 after almost totaling his race car on the inside of the back straightaway. So we will stay green. Here comes Eric Schaefer to make it 3 wide, and this is all for P7.
3 wide for P7, and he's going to back out of that one and let the kind of cars go through. If they're going to have issues, he'll pass them individually. Kind of a smart move. As you see, I think that's a Vizzuti back there that got loose off of turn 1, and now you see on board with the driver of the 25, your pole sitter. He's going to be behind Lawson Field, who's leading the race at the moment. And this is probably the longest run that we've had so far in this race, about 3 laps. It's just kind of, and you see Peel checking the rear. The car is actually going to get loose. Slide up the racetrack goes the 12. He's going to almost get to the outside wall. That allows the 25 to get through. It allows the 55 to get through. And the 38 is trying to be a part of that as well.
Lawson Peel with a very big mistake there in a turn 3. Hands the 25 of Daniel Michel the race lead and almost lost him third there on the podium as Lance Hill tried to make a move down low but just could not find the space nor the momentum to have it completed. And so Peel will fall back to third, and they're also reeling in 5th place Jacob Smith as Hill gets loose there out of turn 1. And Jacob Smith, we saw him getting into the rear of Jesse Freeze and getting some damage earlier on tonight. I guess with the attrition, it's working out in his favor as Hill will lose the car right there and gather her back up on the back straightaway. Now Jacob Smith has shuffled up to 4th.
I think it might be crucial to mention that Jacob Smith has pitted a couple times in this race, so he has potentially some newer tires than most of the cars up here. So if he's able to sort of use that extra grip to an advantage, he might be able to drive up to your top 3 and try to challenge for the lead. Alishire, who had a big save of his own on the restart, is back inside the top 5 as well.
Of course, Hill lost out in the top 5 via the almost spin that happened there out of turn 2. They'll try to regroup themselves back in it. Also to note, Colin Forster, it doesn't look like he is in this race at all here tonight from Indianapolis. Hopefully we get to see him show up in 2 weeks' time when we get to the second road course race of the season. That is, of course, at Circuit of the Americas. So a majority of the field have already thinned out. You see the top 3 already putting distance on 4th on back, but even then some top 2 are putting distance on Lawson Peel, and Joe Sanchez has yet to give up on this fight for the race lead. That time just could not get the car to roll well in turn 3 and will lose a bit of it.
And right there you see that's going to be Michel trying to pull away just a little bit from Sanchez. He's not really trying. We haven't seen this. I thought we would see more of it. I thought trying to move to the bottom of the racetrack and try and snake trail, break the draft. But we haven't really seen that today, and I'm wondering at what point will we see that. Normally it does make itself a staple of the race. But so far has not really been there. There you see now it's a 4-car battle with Tristan Bailey sort of joining the fray behind the Stocks Motorsports car. He's going to get loose as we're now on board with him. We're going to see him work this wheel around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Kenneth, on board with him. With the speed ticker there, he's going to be accelerating down the back straightaway with a little draft. He's almost 190 as he goes down towards the brakes into turn 3. Going to brake to about 155, 154. Make sure the nose is pointed, going through the short chute. A little bit of a dab on the brakes before going into turn 4. More or less the same speed, a little bit less, down closer to 150. And now he's going to just plant the right foot down and accelerate towards turn 1, also reaching 190 miles an hour or so as he tries to keep up with this draft. But looks as though Alishire, with the help from Lance Hill, is going to get past the 15 of Jacob Smith. So the teammates working together at a big super speedway to try and get past the car.
And the big thing there, while you were on board with Tristan Bailey, is just how careful he was to apply that throttle in the middle of the corner. He dabs the brakes, and then he's just so hesitant to try and go as much on the throttle as possible. He kind of waits for the right moment, right when he's off the corner, basically on the straightaways when he goes 100%. He just waits and just tries to make sure he can carefully apply the throttle and not step that car out. It's been the biggest thing about this 670 horsepower package, not only on every intermediate track that it's used on, also with the road courses, but at these big tracks that now have this package in it. And obviously at Indianapolis, NASCAR doesn't really go on the oval anymore ever since they stopped the Brickyard 400. Now they come here only for the road course configuration. And last time iRacing official with the next gen was at Indianapolis. It was back when the 550 horsepower package was still in effect before this was confirmed for the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. It meant that you had a lot of pack racing similar to a large super speedway. And all you really had to do was just let off the throttle just a bit in order to make sure you were close to your clear, and you were fine. You could stay almost wide open throughout the entirety of the racetrack. And it is a big difference now with this package where you see practically every driver having to use the brakes and having to really modulate that throttle to make sure that car, and the rear end specifically, doesn't go the opposite direction as Lance Hill makes this move and isn't able to do it as he gets sideways underneath Alashar. That was for fourth.
He's going to end up going into pit road on that one. Not sure if he sped or not, but an impressive save, but unfortunately, we just didn't have enough room left to try and safely rejoin the racetrack. Probably with the safest matter, deciding to go down to pit road. Cost himself some time potentially, Kenneth, but he might be able to turn this into a pit stop, which could play into some potential strategy later in the race. He can't make it to the end, but if we get any cautions, it could potentially work in his favor. Obviously, he's going to pull it in, take advantage of the fact that he's on. He overshoots it just a little bit, but he should come out basically with your leaders. I'm not sure if he'll be just a behind, but he's going to be in this group somewhere in front of or behind, as they're going to be rounding turn 4, and I believe Lance Hill actually might be pit stall now. You see the tire smoke there. He's out on his way, accelerating through the car. The leaders are going to be going to turn 1 now. There you see them actually just going through back there, and Hill's going to be able to exit way out in front of these guys. So no worries about going a lap down, and he has a pit stop complete. So far for Hill, if a caution comes out right now, it actually might work out really good for him, because I think everybody would probably bring it down pit road.
It was an impromptu stop there for the 38. Not sure if it was completely planned, but with the way his car got sideways, it just looked like he thought on the spot and said, okay, I'm just going to pit now. I've already gone more than 35 laps on this stint with all the yellows and everything I had to do to get to this moment. Why not just do something different? Maybe make an undercut happen, and if push comes to shove, a yellow comes out, chances are he can come down pit road with the rest of the field and not really have to worry all too much. But with that shuffle, it makes other drivers come in. And I was about to ask the question, who else is going to follow? The answer is in the form of the 55, Joe Sanchez. He pits from 3rd.
Yeah, he might drive some cars with him down Lance Hill because of the fact that it was unplanned, but also near a time that would make sense for the pit stop. I think a couple of these guys might think maybe I should come down pit road now. So we'll see who decides to bite. No one else has for now. You're on board with him now with that patriotic helmet. He's going to pull into his pit stall here and take some service, 4 tires, and fill it up with fuel. And we're going to see how exactly this all pans out. And here we have a battle for the lead. Pio got to the inside of Michel. He takes it away.
Beautiful move there by Pio. We saw a couple of laps earlier him switch around to second above Joe Sanchez, and it looks like Michel will make the decision to hop on the brakes and slow down for pit road. So Lance Hill may have just brought everybody down, including the main leaders here in this race. It looks like Michel will be the lone driver here out of the couple that have already passed out of turn 4. Pio will wait another lap, but Michel, one of the drivers to come in. And now this makes things very unique here, because now how does Lance Hill shuffle out all this? There he is right there trying to get around Adam Alashar in the 14. And Pio, obviously, he needs to come in at some point in this race, probably sooner than later. It's just all about where Lance Hill will kind of cycle out of all of this. He's currently in 22nd, so not in the best place as he almost gets into his teammate there.
This is some close racing for these teammates, probably holding their breaths as they're doing so, but they keep it pointed straight. They're costing each other time. They don't want to be doing that too. And it looks as though Peel's going to stay out another lap. So now I ask this question, Kenneth. I'm not sure how much they were able to continuous yellows there and just how much fuel could be saved. There you see damage on the right front of Tristan Bailey's. He puts it into the pit lane to come and get some service. But depending how much these guys saved, is there any way possible that Peel might try and stretch us into a one-stop race?
And maybe the possibility here, because if Hill had to really do something different as he got loose out of 4, I think now he's just basically forced to do something like that. Maybe could stretch it out to a one-stop race. The only thing is, he's at risk of being put a lap down because there's Alishar. He also recently just pitted, obviously off of the contact, but actually Hill has already gone a lap down. It looks like there's some big problems here as his car is not in the right place. He's in 4th gear.
He has right front damage right there. You see it on the right side of your screen, and you have to wonder, did he make contact with Alishar that was this damage? And you saw it right there for a brief second. No contact with his teammate, just gets loose off the corner, tries to keep the gas in, and actually locks the brakes down. He locks it up, and that's what actually caused him to get back into the wall. I think it actually would have stayed in the gas, try and accelerate away from the wall there. It probably would have worked out in his situation better. You see, it was loose through turn 1. Unfortunately, it slipped away in turn 2. Of course, we were talking about the strategy that him and Alishar were trying to play. It wouldn't have worked, as you see Peel on pit road now. I think the guys that pit, I think with him pitting now, there's no stretch to one stop. Yes, it is halfway, but they had over 20 laps of caution laps before we went green flag, Kenneth. So that's too considerable to make this a one stop if the 12 is pitting now. So I do think everybody still has to come back once more, and it'll probably be some time with 10 laps to go, or you can split it up. You could probably come into pit road around lap 60, closer to 65, and make that your last stop of the race.
Well, things just got out of shape for the 38 of Lance Hill, and we were about to pose a good point that he could make the one stop happen and change things up. Unfortunately, his car goes for a spin, and he joins Adam Alishar as actually Scott Healy also bringing in that. Alishar still in the lead lap. Healy is the other car, 1 lap down as Healy went down pit road with your leader. He is currently in 22nd place. So as we cross the line for the halfway mark of tonight's race from Indianapolis, it is our time to take a look at your race summary, see exactly how things have fared. And we mentioned the fact that we have had 3 cautions in each of the previous 2 Indianapolis races. We've already had the same amount of cautions as those 2 races combined, a total of 6 for 17 caution laps. As we cross the line, we'll have 38 laps to go off of your leader, Jacob Smith, in the 15, who is still yet to pit. We've had a total of 5 lead changes. That also accounts for the pit stop strategy. So that's your race summary so far at the halfway mark of this race. And now we await Jacob Smith and the rest of the leaders to follow in suit. We see a couple of more are now stepping in. Cody Kinsey in the 93. Looks like his red Camaro is going to take a trip down for 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles and some fuel, probably to make it to the end of this race. Still very, very close on that strategy. And now it's just a waiting game for all these guys. Do they want to come in later, or do they want to come in now as Smith hits the clutch?
I think Smith is trying the one stop. Remember, he pitted at some point during those caution sequences when we had at the beginning of the race. And this is what I meant, Ken. You don't know how the races are going to play out, but if depending on when cautions come out, you might be able to find yourself into a right strategy. And I think Jacob Smith may have just kind of found his way into a strategy that could work. And of course, he's not the only one on it, but it could result in some good runs for somebody else. You see Eric Schaefer also on this strategy, trying it out to see if he can improve his race result. And I think, Kenneth, if these guys goes to, I'd say earliest lap 47, lap 48, they might be able to try to go the rest of the distance on just the one pit stop. And it's not completely far-fetched. It would just mainly depend on, can they save if the race goes green? And I think the biggest question mark regarding that is, does the race stay green?
Yeah, that's going to be a big question mark, and that will change everything if a yellow does come out if we are 7th of this event. And you look at Brandon T. Banks, who also took a look at Tyler Murray, Eric Schaefer. There was a difference in Smith and Schaefer. They're both on the same strategy, now coming across the line for 26 laps on their current stint out on the racing surface. Smith using the clutch to save some fuel. Schaefer doesn't look like he's doing it. He's just running a normal 100% as he would in any other case. But then you look down the order and things get a little weirder, because 21 laps on a stint is Curtis Kelly. Right now, Tyler Murray is on 19 laps. Kevin D'Elia is on 20 laps. Brandon Banks in the 88. We haven't talked about him all race long. He's now run only 18 laps on his tank of fuel. So one stop is definitely possible in the realm here, especially since the first third of this race was run under yellow flag conditions, gave these guys the opportunity to come in for service and a splash of fuel. So maybe we've got some third-party drivers trying to play a little bit of spoiler here in a race that's been dominated by the likes of Sanchez, Peel, and Daniel Micho.
I think you're exactly right with that, Kenneth. You have guys that could go definitely another 10 laps or so that are further down the order from your current race leaders. So that could very well play a factor. So if you're these two, if you're Peel and Micho, you think you're going to cycle out to the front of the lead, but you actually have to go up and pass those guys for position, as Micho now takes that position away from Peel. But if you're those two, you actually have to go up and pass everybody in the top 10 currently for position, because if those guys only try to pull off on one stop, then it'll be at a different time, but everybody essentially has to still pit once in this race. So it's like they're throwing the track position away in a sort of sense, if you understand what I'm trying to say by that. So you might have these leaders come in 5 to 10 laps, and I think that'll put them close enough to the end of the race to do that one stop without too big of a concern. You see Jacob Smith is still out there, and he's going to start lap 47. So I think, Kenneth, if he gets closer to lap 50, it's very realistic that he can make this one stop work. And that, again, forces the likes of Peel and Micho to have to go up there and pass those guys for position. And that's more than 20 seconds that they'd have to make up.
It's a total of 31 seconds between where Micho is on the racetrack, 13, and where Jacob Smith is on his respective lap. So it is a huge gap between these guys up here that should cycle out to net P1 and P2, P3 on so forth, and the guys who are staying out on alternate strategies here just to shake things up even further tonight from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And to also tackle on your point, Francisco, the deficit on the tires for the guys staying out, it gets smaller and smaller every single turning lap, because when Daniel Micho and Peel are running laps here, especially when they're running close to each other and could potentially make moves for position, try to go side by side, their tires start to equalize. And while yes, they are technically fresher, they may have a slight advantage, a slight positive over the guys in front of them. It starts to dwindle. At some point, there is a cliff that the tires go off of, and then it basically just puts Peel, Micho, and the guys who just pitted recently on the same par as these guys who have stayed out on tires that are multiple laps older than theirs. So it's ultimately going to get harder to tackle and harder to climb over the mountain that Peel, Micho, and the other guys that just pitted are willing to overcome. And that only helps out the guys of Jacob Smith, Eric Schaefer, Curtis Kelly, all the guys who have stayed out up to this point and have not come down pit road. This makes things very fun. I'd say for the first third of the race, Francisco, we were concerned whether we were even going to get a long green flag run. Well, now we have it, and I think this is the best run we could have ever asked for.
Yeah, we still have to see it unfold, because right now this is looking a lot like 2 seasons ago, with a bunch of strategy going on in the race to determine who's going to win it. Right now we have two primary strategies going on, exactly how back then. We have guys trying to make the green flag run on 2 green flag pit stops, and guys trying to make it on 1 because they were able to pit on some of those caution flags. And right now, at least at this point in the race, that one stop is looking very favorable right now. Those guys, Peel and Micho, they haven't exactly been able to gain too much on your current race leaders. So if they aren't able to do much in that time, this could favor the one stop.
And for these guys here,
and
the caution now comes out. So that changes everything. It's a stalled Cody Kinsey on the back straightaway. Luckily, everyone else is able to escape scot-free, but the 93, the Wawa car, is in trouble. And now everything completely gets thrown out of the window as the caution flag waves just shy of 30 laps to go.
Kenneth, I think this actually might still work in favor of those guys who stayed out, because I think everybody who pitted about 10 or 15 laps ago is going to come right back in, because they know they can't make it. Staying out there on their current stuff and risk it going green and coming in and making a green flag pit stop. So I think the whole field will likely come down pit road. As you saw what happened there to Kinsey, just kind of gets loose there on his own. You hate to see it. Just kind of going into turn 2 and very gingerly, see there, kind of sensing something's wrong, trying to hold the wheel straight so that the car doesn't spin, but it catches and around it went. Does a good job of locking it down. Those guys do a good job of avoiding and nobody else involved. But I do think we're going to see a lot of these guys probably come to pit road. I think the whole field, for that matter, should come down pit road. It'll be a one stop from here to the end. You don't have to come down pit road at any more in this race than you have to. So if these guys decide to come down pit road, Kenneth, it could be the final pit stop.
And for Kinsey there, just suffered the repercussions of stepping out the car a little bit too much out of turn 2. It was a good save. It was a good lock of the brakes and was able to just keep it on the track. And luckily, the field was already thinned out enough that nobody got into him and potentially could have made things worse. And so Kinsey is the lone car in that incident to bring us under caution as of lap 50. Here comes the leaders: Jacob Smith, Eric Schaefer, Curtis Kelly, Tyler Murray, Kevin D'Elia, among the drivers who had stayed out, who were either saving fuel or just staying out, hoping they could make it to the end on the final stop of the race. And so all of them will take a trip down in. And also to note, Michel and Peel, they're also following suit. So everybody's on the same path here for the end.
Yeah, I mentioned this just before the pit stops, Kenneth. It was probably going to happen that everybody comes down pit road because you have the insurance of being able to go the rest of the distance on fuel without having any concerns. So that really worked out well for the guys who stayed out. Jacob Smith is going to win the race off of pit road. There you see Schaefer is going to come out second. Curtis Kelly's going to be fourth as Lawson Peel with a great stop. I believe he may have done some strategy there. He's going to come out in third.
6.2 seconds for Lawson Peel. Everybody else around him had pit stops in the 14-second bracket, but Peel was the only one to have one under 10 seconds in the top 5 or even the top 10. So Peel just trying something differently to put himself up in the top 5, and even if he is at a disadvantage, he's got a nice buffer to the guys behind him who maybe tried the same thing, but from the looks of it, nobody else did what Peel was doing. So Peel is taking a big risk here at lap 51 on that pit stop.
He's going to move him up the order, which is probably important because historically here at Indianapolis, even though tires matter, if you're able to get the track position, that could work out better than you being in a tire situation. We've seen that before in the case of Brian Smith a couple seasons ago. So I think this is probably a good move by Peel, him having pitted not too long ago. So maybe his left sides are fresh enough to where just a change of the rights and filling up of the fuel can put him in a good spot. And I don't blame him for trying to do this. He has 3 wins. He has a good cushion in the points lead. Why not go for it?
That is definitely true. He's got a couple of wins to his column already. He's already locked into the playoffs. So this call could either go well with flying colors or it could go catastrophic for him in a matter of moments. There's a couple of the cars now getting their wave around. Cody Kinsey, Scott Healy, Lance Hill, all 3 of them getting their wave around here. Looks like all of them are going to be on the lead lap when they catch back up to the field. The only car 1 lap down or more that's still in the race is Jesse Priest in the 00. Also to update on our DNF list, AJ Green in the 48 has parked it. He's 23rd. Austin Riddy has also done the same. He's 27 laps down in 24th. And obviously that adds on to the 2 that were already DNF'd the last time we talked about it. Brian M. Smith, who's 35 laps down, and Tony Kibbett was not able to really make this race. He is 50 laps down in P26. So it's all the guys who stayed out, all the guys who tried something else apart from the majority of the field now in control of the race. This is the first time that we see Jacob Smith lead the field on a restart tonight. Eric Schaefer will be alongside him in second. Remember, Eric Schaefer had slammed the outside wall at the exit of turn 4 after getting loose to bring out one of our first cautions of the night. Lawson Peel with a 6.2 second stop. He's in third. Curtis Kelly has swapped up to fourth. And then bring in Brandon Banks to the top 5. League owner Tyler Murray to P6. Nicholas Vizzuti to 7th. CJ Munier to 8th. Michael Bubraw in 9th. And Christopher Bishop to lock up the top 10. Daniel Michel is the first driver out of the ones who were supposed to be net leaders on that last run. He is back in 11th. And so he's got a lot of cars to get through before this is all said and done. Pace car will make the trip down to pit road once more to complete lap number 52. It's Jacob Smith, Eric Schaefer to the green flag. It's an early jump by the 15, and he clears the field coming to the Art of Bricks and to turn 1.
A really good launch by the 15 of Jacob Smith is going to put him out to the front of the field. You see second place is going to go to the 22 of Eric Schaefer. The 12 really slicing his way through there to try and get up to third. That's going to put Curtis Kelly down in fourth. So a good restart there by most of the front of the field. They're trying to get single file for the most part so we can get another green flag run here. You see the 15 move down on the racetrack. And speaking of incidents, there you see one. Car still pointing in the right direction. Half spin, but he saves it. Good job there by Craig Lauenslonger to back it down and keep the car from wrecking. But huge incident there in turn 2 that results in no yellow flag and no damaged race cars.
That was a lot of trouble that started with the 42 Christopher Bishop, the 25 of Daniel Michel. They both got loose coming out of the corner. They checked up immensely, and that ultimately shook things up.
Smith.
And there's problems for Jacob Smith. It looks like we'll try to take a look as to where he is on the track. There's, you see, still the 13 back on the racetrack, and it looks like the 15 now out of shape. He's falling back. Tyler Murray is almost around. He's wiggling the car in that short shoe.
And another spot lost there to a car right up there with Jacob Smith. So a lot of action going on in this restart, Kenneth. There's a lot of situations with cars getting loose, cars losing control. We have one car in the back. I believe Scott Healy had a moment, but he's still going strong in the right direction. That's going to put the 22 of Eric Schaefer in the lead of the race and move Lawson Peel up to second. So right now, Kenneth, that two-tire call that he made to gain the track position, he had lost. Caution flag waves. It looked like something happened in turn 3. It's really paying off for him because now he's got that track position back, and the guy he was with in the 25 of Michel, he's still kind of mired in the middle. And there you see Michael Newball perhaps involved in this incident, and it looks as though that was indeed the case. You see Daniel Michel was just ahead, so that shows the difference between the strategies those two took under the yellow flag. Right there, going into the corners, way up the racetrack. Actually, something happened up ahead.
That's Tyler Murray. It looks like he was involved there, and then just an extra shunt there as it started with Smith. Jacob Smith led the field to green, got around. Daniel Michel picked up some damage and then brought a couple of more cars in it. Michael Newball, one of them, he came to a dead halt as everybody else tried to scatter around. And this is a nightmare, not only for Smith, who had fresh tires to lead us back to green, but for the 25, who was just trying to pick things back up from where he started this event in P1.
He might have some light damage, if at all, the 25 would. I think he has some mostly front-end damage from when he clipped on the 15. I think if we can get an onboard of this, we'll get a good idea. Because he lightly tapped the wall with that right rear, so I think it's going to be from this hit right there. Just gets into the 25, sends him around, gets hit there, but honestly, Kenneth, I don't think there's too much damage on that 25.
You just gotta wonder, though, if that affects the engine and the RPMs, because even a slight hit like that could knock you down some. And for Michel, that's going to be the biggest concern. Obviously, the test for that in the iRacing service is to just clutch the car, let it coast, and if it's at 2,000 RPM, which is idle here for these Cup Series cars, then you're fine. But for Michel, that's going to lose him a lot of front-end speed. And obviously, when you got to rely on a very lean, trimmed-out car with a low spoiler in the back to give you a lot of that straight line speed going into the corner, if Michel has a problem with the motor, that is going to hurt him significantly, and it could just allow everybody else to latch in front and get by without any trouble. So Tyler Murray and company will come down pit road. Obviously, a majority of the guys who were involved in that crash, Smith being included. There's Cody Kinsey, Scott Healy getting up the jacks. It looks like Tristan Bailey also involved in that group that's coming in. As a look at Cody Neal and a couple of more near the rear of the field, CJ Munier being one of them to come in for service, as these are the guys to stay out as we are closing in on the final 20 laps here from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Well, we've seen it all from Season 2, Season 3, and now Season 4's edition of this Indianapolis race. We'll take a short moment and step away, but you won't miss a thing as we continue our coverage of round number 10 in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series Season 4 right here on MaxSpeedTV.
iRacing is a sim racing game. that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we continue round number 10 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series in Season 4. Glad to have you with us once again on a Wednesday night. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacalao along with you for the call. And we've had different strategies for many of the drivers in the field. Just got over a caution that involved many of the heavy hitters tonight. Joe Sanchez picked up some damage. Daniel Michel, Jacob Smith, among those collected. Tyler Murray also in it as well. Many of them have come down pit road and they're ready to restart, but they've got to wait for Lawson Peel and Eric Schaefer to give them the discretion. Schaefer will be your official control car as the pace car will make its way down to the entrance of pit road. Schaefer has looked to keep his car up at the front for as long as possible, and Peel trying to take it all away with a 6.2 second pit stop the last time they came in for service. Green flag back in the air, lap 58 on the marks here from Indianapolis, and it's a great start by the 22. Peel now clears for second. Curtis Kelly, they're going to dive underneath Brandon Banks, and he completes it for third.
See, for the most part, again, the front of the field goes single file. Parsons trying to get their feet under them, get a bit of a rhythm established, and you see a move back there being made by Michel. He's able to go underneath somebody for position. We have a crash off turn 2.
Another crash there. That's a big, yeah, indeed a big one. The 89 CJ Winier, 42 of Bishop. That looks to be Michael Newbraw and Cody Kinsey with their front clips completely torn off. And once again, we have a stack up coming out of the first two corners from Indianapolis, and we are following the trend that started at the drop of the green flag. We'll take a look at the replay, and obviously everybody double file here, many of them coming off of pit road. And then right about here, looks like, I think entrance right there, Mark Harris gets into the wall, kind of slows the field up by just a hair. And then the 42 gets out of shape, slams into the 93, also picks up CJ Winier. Looks like Tyler Murray and Cody Neal got a piece of that as well. And it's just an ugly scenario there for everybody involved as you ride on board with the 42.
Right there, the issues with them in front. But he's going to get loose right there and right down on the racetrack into somebody else's path. And you see some more cars spinning their way up towards the outside wall, resulting in a multi-car accident off the turn 2. You see Vizzuti there getting loose while trying to avoid the crash. We're around board with him now. He sees the smoke happen right there. He gets loose on his own, has a bit of a moment, and I think it actually was a good thing that he got loose.
I think it was, he just thanked his lucky stars there that the car stepped out and he chased it down the track instead of following it up to the wall, as he narrowly avoids the contact there, although he's got a bit of right side damage. He's going to try and assess that on pit road, as a majority of the leaders will try to fake. It looks like Michel will be maybe a taker here. Yes, Daniel Michel on the 25, the pole sitter, on a pit road. And Francisco, you had developments that he was just a couple of RPMs out of 2000, around the 1997, 1998 range on his revs. So maybe not the worst case scenario, but I think may just be the best case here to just come down pit road and at least fix what you have left to fix.
I also think that just maybe he's trying something different here. He was sort of in the middle there, close to the 10th spot, probably just trying to change some tires. You see the jacks are going up there, so he is trying to put on some tires and see if he can use fresh tires to slice his way through the field. We still have 20 laps to go in this race, so it could play a factor, but if we keep getting caution flags, Kenneth, it's just going to come down to pure track position.
And that was the benefactor for Colin Forster last season when we ended up in a green-white checkered scenario. The track position helped Forster out and, of course, just made the surging passes there in the final laps of the race to take his third straight win in a row back when Indianapolis was round 3 of the Season 3 campaign. But now we've got a whole host of different characters. Forster is not here to defend his win. Brian M. Smith, who has been a previous winner here in Indianapolis in Season 2, he's out of this race early after being involved in a couple of crashes. And so now it's up to a couple of drivers who have won before this season and some that have still not reached glory. Eric Schaefer, he's a winner earlier in this campaign. He picked up his first win of the year at the Pocono Raceway. You look at Lawson Peel, who's already racked up 3 wins on the season and has continued a streak of top 3 finishes. Curtis Kelly, he's not a winner yet in this season, although he's been very close and very solid with this next-gen car. Brandon Banks, who was part of the Championship 5 just 1 season ago, he has yet to win in this campaign either, and he's in 4th. Adam Alashire, he has yet to win this season either, in 5th place. Nicholas Vizzuti, remember, he was at possibility of defending a New Hampshire win 1 week ago, could not make it. He's here tonight. He also doesn't have a win this season. Neither does Kevin D'Elia. Neither does Craig Lounslager. And then you have to go back to Joe Sanchez in the 55, who was just crowned a winner last week in New Hampshire. And that's just the streak of cars that do not have wins in this 2022 campaign and are just trying to break off a winless streak. But it's the 2 drivers up front that already have checkered flags and playoff confirmations to their name, looking to hold on as we'll cross the line for 19 laps to go. So Eric Schaefer, looks like he'll have control. Lawson Peel on the inside in row number 1. Curtis Kelly and Brandon Banks will follow soon in row number 2. Then it's Alashire, Vizzuti to the top 6. Kevin D'Elia, Craig Lounslager, Joe Sanchez, Lance Hill, your top 10. By the way, an update on Daniel Michel. His call to pit road puts him 13th on the racetrack. There he is, just behind the 38 of Lance Hill. So crazy enough, we've seen some wild restarts. We've seen some big crashes. Francisco, are we expecting anything different in the final 20? Well, it looks like we'll dial up Francisco just a little bit later, maybe if you come around for the finish of this race. But nonetheless, Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel are ready to bring us back to green. And obviously to the famed Yard of Bricks, back to turn number 1. Lawson Peel has been the master of the restarts for sure here in this race specifically. Has been very good on restarts overall in the season. And he's used it to his advantage here tonight. It looks like it'll be no different by the time Schaefer hops on the gas pedal and goes 100% to chase to Barney the Flagman, who will have the green flag in hand. Pace car makes its way down a pit road. Schaefer going a little earlier than usual, but he'll hop in front of the 12 of Lawson Peel, who is not able to catch on to the antics by the Camaro up front. He'll clear enough for 2nd. Curtis Kelly back in it for 3rd. Field chases back for turn 1, and Peel's right on the rear bumper of the leader. It was a solid move through 1 and 2 that got him in position to take the lead away. And as Schaefer shuffles up the track in 1 and 2, this gives a long back straightaway all to Lawson Peel, who could strike, make a move here. Here comes Schaefer making a shuffle up to 5th gear, and the 12 of Peel now moves to the inside and clears for P1. And remember, Lawson Peel on a 2-tire call, 6.2 seconds. Kept him in 3rd among the majority of the field that had taken 4 fresh tires and fuel to make it all the way to the very end. And Peel has been spectacular up to this point. Now here comes Schaefer with a retaliation move on the inside.
to the inside of turn 1. He's going to try and see if he can stick. The 12 goes wide just a little bit, but caution. I think the 12 may have kept the lead there, but you see right there, Scott Healy into the outside wall.
Scott Healy in trouble. Maybe Brandon Banks. Yes, Brandon Banks in trouble outside turn 1. And that's a tough place to be in. A tough break for the 88 who was running well in the restart. They're still crashing here under caution. That's the 42 of Christopher Bishop. Tyler Murray, they got into contact. Now, once again, we are under the yellow with 18 laps to go. It was a big crash. Coming to turn 1, here's a look at Michel. Went underneath. They were actually crashing further behind, but it's Banks that got hit by the 64. So 2 different incidents here. Oh, we've got some drama here at the Brickyard.
Very interesting. It's we have the incident happen in the front. You see a block right there, Tristan Bailey, and they end up making contact with Kinsey there. Back across the racetrack, Murray involved. You get Bishop involved as well. So a couple cars on the front straightaway in their own respective crash, getting some heavy damage to their race car. And of course, the incident that we also saw there in turn 1 that we had just seen. So right on board here with Bishop. See the blocking going on. They're going to start crashing right about there. You see Freeze backs off. And just unfortunately, he missed the main part of the wreck, but the speed carried him right into the path of that 26 spinning.
It looked like he almost got away without any damage, and then came Bailey chasing down the track and got into him. Unfortunately, it looks like Bishop not able to escape that one that time. And by the way, that wreck with Brandon Banks and Scott Healy was just around Daniel Michel, who had just locked into the top 10. And here he is here, I think just letting a couple of cars by, or just taking the access road just for the sake of it. He'll hold on. He is now currently listed as 9th on the racetrack. So there is still an opportunity here for Daniel Michel to get back in the game after leading a good chunk of this race and obviously starting from the pole at the drop of the green flag. But what a performance it's been for Lawson Peel. I know we've said it multiple times this season, but the 12 just continues to impress week after week. Whether he's on 2 tires, whether he's on old tires, whether he's on brand new rubber, the 12 manages to be fast at every single track we visit. And that restart, I think the most pivotal move of the race, as Schaefer tried to go back to the bottom before the caution came out. But Peel, in this case, against a sea of drivers on fresh rubber, it would look easy as a result on paper, where everybody would just get away from Peel and Peel would just have to struggle with what he's got. But in fact, it's been the opposite. It looks like everybody behind has struggled to either keep pace or get around this 12. And Peel has been able to set the rhythm of both the restarts and the run out of turn 2. That's where he's been his best so far.
And of course, only one person has been able to challenge him truly, and that's in the 25. Of course, we've seen Joe Sanchez go up there and take the lead as well. But in the long runs, we saw that the 25 was able to challenge him properly. There you see Sanchez in 7th. 2 spots behind them is the 25 of Michel with those fresher tires. We'll see if both of those guys are able to make up enough spots to really mount a challenge. Those guys were really able to challenge that 12 car and make him work for his money. So as we get down to the final stretch of this race, look for those 2 to try and work their way up through the field into the top 5 and see if they can mount one last challenge for the 12.
And you can imagine there's frustration with these guys because they've been some of the heavy hitters with Peel all race long, and now they can't really show their speed right now because of the amount of yellows that continuously get thrown before they can even exit turn 2, and sometimes before they even get to turn 1 in some cases. So it's hard for them to express really what they have in the final stint, just because they just continue to go in a stop and go rhythm with guys getting into cautions every now and then. So we'll see if this run maybe is able to give them the opportunity to show what they've got and show their speed and maybe carve through the field and put the fight up to Lawson Peel like we've seen them do for most of this race. It just has not been the scenario quite perfectly for them just yet. Peel will be your leader on the restart. We'll cross the line for 15 laps to go, but it looks like the lights on the iRacing official pace car will shut down. We'll have a restart with officially 14 laps to go. We've had a bunch of cautions tonight, and of course, we talked about it to start. Very clean track this Indianapolis Motor Speedway is with this series. It has not been like that tonight. Obviously, that is wrong. 3 cautions since we reset the telemetry screen, but we already have at least more than 10 or just around that double-digit mark for yellows thrown here tonight from the Brickyard. So we'll have, again, the field doubled up, and I asked you the question here, Francisco, but you had to take a little break to be right back. But I posed a question stating, if we saw a trend like that happen at the beginning of the race, and now we're starting to see yellows fly, are we expecting it in the final 15, or are we expecting a green flag run to somehow break out of the fold and bring us to the end of the race?
I'd hope for a green flag run, but at this point, I'm willing to base my strategy off cautions coming out, in the sense of you're going to have these guys going through restart phases, and then have to back down for a caution, and also be ready for some wrecks. You know that it's starting to come down to the end of the race. The laps are the restarts are getting more and more intense. But I think one thing that we haven't talked about won't be an issue, but just something to note. You can tell that the sun has gone down. It is getting late here at Indianapolis. It's almost 6:30 in sim time, so you know that's almost at the sunset time. Still not going to be a problem here at all. That sun, it's putting a lot of shade on the front straightaway. It's causing a lot of glare in 3 and 4, so it's not going to be a problem in terms of darkness, but it is something to note in these closing laps.
And also to note there, track conditions, track temperature going down. It started today at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. And obviously it can go down as the afternoon progresses. Green flag back in the air. It's Lawson Peel this time in control. And a masterful restart from the 12 brings him clear of the rest of the field. They're side by side for second. That's Alishire making a charge on the 22 of Schaefer. But it's going to be short-lived as Curtis Kelly goes to the bottom.
Oh, and
they're sideways.
Back. We have cars going around.
Lance Hill sideways. Are they able to save it? Yes, but the caution comes out before they could get it back underway. It looks like Tristan Bailey is the biggest victim here. Smoke billowing out of the back of the 26. At one point, he was the biggest mover. Tonight started in 21st. And now his Wonder Bread car is in a wonder of trouble as he's on the apron there in turns 1 and 2. We'll try to analyze. Oh my goodness, a big crash here. Cody Kinsey, Jesse Prees, turn 1. Brace yourselves.
Oh no, he caught the guardrail opening.
That is an ugly hit for the 26 of Bailey as he got into contact with Cody Kinsey. So they were near the rear end of this restart. Obviously, there's the rest of the field. Lawson Peel, you just saw him pass by on the bottom side of your screen. It's right there, arcing for turn 1. Just gets caught up on the wall at the wrong place as it starts the safer barrier. And then he goes for a ride over on his roof, kicks through the grass before landing on all fours on the inside of turn 1. And it's just a horrific sight there for the 26. This race has gone awfully awry for him, and he's already used a fast repair, so things have not gone the best for the 26. So try to see what happened with the likes of Lance Hill and the guys up at the front, that they made a great save to keep themselves in the game. We'll take a look at the aerial shot here. Here's the field lining up for the restart. There they are, shuffling up through the gears. And just watch this pack here behind Curtis Kelly. It starts with Kevin D'Elia, and it ends with the 38 and the 13 getting way out of whack.
And a good save by everybody. You see Longslogger really sideways on the bottom. And a good job again by everybody avoiding this, taking the proper action. The caution was not for that. It was for the incident we saw with the flying car as you see Lance Hill lock up catching the field. Like, we had a couple guys come down pit road, it seems. They were catching up to the field. Either that or it's just taking them this long to catch up, and I think it is the latter. I think it took them that long to catch up to the field. So right now, if you look at your top couple of positions, you have Schaefer still in second, you have Alishire in third, but Joe Sanchez is, I believe, now moved possibly up a spot. I think he's up to 6 now, be wrong. But I do think that gives him a little bit of a better shot for the restart. It moves him up a spot. Actually, no, he lost a spot. He's down in 8th. And it looks like Michel's still in the 9th spot. So no real big gains out of those two. I thought maybe that Sanchez had moved up a row. Instead, he's going to be a row further down than where I thought he is. And it's going to make things very difficult for those guys, Kenneth. I mean, if we keep having cautions like this, it's going to make it hard for anybody to beat the 12. It's going to come down to the launch of the car on the front row, which Schaefer has not been able to match enough for Peel, but he's been able to match enough to keep second. So you have to imagine, you get this many restart attempts next to somebody, eventually you'll get one right.
And also think about the jump on that last restart by the 14 of Adam Alishire. Again, I mentioned earlier that them in row 2, him and Peel, most notably, have been very quick when it comes to acceleration and just getting the move out of 1 and 2 to at least gain track position and maintain it, the 14 has done just that. He hasn't led any laps tonight from Indy, but he's just been around here, and that could be good enough if we end up continuing to get yellows here in the final 11 laps of this race. Just being here in the top 3 alone gives Alashar a shot to win. It's all that could happen, all the possibilities that could arise when the white flag is thrown, or even before the white flag is displayed here tonight. So that 14 could have himself a ball here just behind Lawson Pure and Eric Schaefer after having some of the best restarts we've seen all night. And so we'll wait one more lap to get the lights out on the iRacing official pace car. You saw Eric Schaefer not wanting to waste any time. Francisco poking his nose there on the outside and telling Pio, hey, I want to be up there, but Pio will ultimately make the decision to go high, and Schaefer will have to be in front of Alashar. And maybe that's a call here, Francisco, to mitigate the 14. The 14 has been very good on these restarts, but if you got Schaefer, who has since struggled to get on the gas going to green, he could kind of slow down the 14 and just let Pio run away, have Curtis Kelly maybe fight them into turn 1 and just make the route worse for them and just make things as easy as possible for Pio to run away.
That is, of course, the tactic that the leader has, and it makes sense. I can see why he does so, because the line in which the leader is usually fires off better. So if you have the outside fire off better, you have Curtis Kelly challenging Schaefer and Alashar into turn 1 instead of having Alashar possibly getting ahead of the 22 and then possibly having him line up alongside you. So it's very tactical what the driver of the 12 is doing, and something that usually when you're the leader you think about where each driver will line up if you choose a certain line. In a situation like this, obviously we don't have choose cone, in which depending how many cars go up into a line, you choose what you want, and that's a whole different conversation. But here, where it's static, where all that happens is you change the front row, you want in front of who, you do have some power in doing so. You choose the outside, you could be to limit the 3rd place car, and that's exactly what he's doing here right now.
All right, so we'll line them up once again. Lawson Peel, your leader on the control. Eric Schaefer to react here. Curtis Kelly, Adam Alashar in row number 2 to give chase. Both of them Ford Mustangs, your leader. Both bow ties, Chevrolet Camaros. Pace car, entrance to pit road. Could it be the final time? We don't know. A bit of contact between Alashar and Kelly before we even go back to green. And it's an even restart. Peel and Schaefer door to door coming into turn 1.
Side by side, a good restart by the 22. He's going to nose ahead, and he's going to get clear into turn 1.
A beautiful restart turns into a beautiful pass for the lead. Eric Schaefer back in control at Indianapolis, but he'll drift high in a 1, and it could reel in back Peel out of turn 2 to the back straightaway.
The field spreading all over the back straightaway. You see cars trying to make moves. Now you see the 55 of Sanchez. He's looking to the inside of Alashar. He's already up to 4th, Kenneth. He's gained 5 spots on this restart.
And remember, I stated that these cautions coming out so frequently kind of slowed down the 55 and the 25, Sanchez and Michel, from showing their direct speed. But this could be the place in the final 10 laps where they end up making their runs present. There's one car there. Michael Newbraw gets out of shape. He'll lock up the brakes and save it. Here comes Sanchez inside for 3rd.
The move for the 3rd spot. Go to the inside, gets close to the grass, and he's going to clip the curbing a little bit. He's going to get loose, so he can't take that spot, and he might be under fire for this one. Actually, no, you see a bit of spreading out going on behind him as the field begins to spread just a little bit, and almost into the wall goes Schaefer. They're going to be side by side.
It looks like Peel has been the best. It looks like Peel's been the best car coming out of turn 2, and that's been the case. Sanchez side by side with Alashar still for 3rd, but the 12 will clear ahead of the 22, and coming to 8 laps to go, Peel is back in control.
He worked the side draft right there, Kenneth. You saw it right off the corner. The 22 was high on eggs. The 12 drives to the inside, and he tags the wall off the corner. Not that big of a hit, just a little brush, but he did get it. And you see a car, Brandon T. Banks, almost into the pit wall entry, all the way in the back of the field. So a lot of action kicking off on this restart. I see Curtis Kelly there on the outside of, I believe that's Kevin D'Elia, or a car I couldn't exactly make of, but right there, Peel with a good gap at the moment, starting to stretch it on Schaefer. Schaefer almost high off the corner. Alashar tags the wall. Curtis Kelly trying to find his way into the top 5. He's looking a way to get around that driver in front of it, but a caution's going to come out. Tyler Murray with some significant rear end damage, Kenneth, and this is going to put Lawson Peel back in the lead of the race. We'll have to see if the 22 Schaefer can get any sort of a restart.
It's going to put Joe Sanchez in third. So it's going to be dangerous on the restart. We'll take a look and see exactly what happened to your league owner, Tyler Murray, who got in a bad place, bad time, 1 and 2. Looked like may have clipped that curbing just a little bit. The car stepped out, rear end, kicked sideways, and it looked like a save, but just wiggled the car too much and corrected it back to the outside. It's been a case like many so far here tonight from Indianapolis, and that's been the trouble spot. Again, like we mentioned earlier on the broadcast, Murray was the driver in practice to say this thing in 1 and 2 drives like a dump truck on ice, and it is still living up to the words that Murray put out there in his expressions, and his car ultimately suffering because of that condition, as the field will catch up to the pace car, and we have ourselves another restart. It looks like it may come within 6 or 5 laps to go.
Yeah, you see the field starting to check up. And Murray there, Kenneth, he was actually in the lead of the race of the modifieds, if you noticed there. And he happened to be in the front of that train, so unfortunately for him, he won't be finishing in front of the cars with no front end.
It's been tough there, and Murray has fallen back to 17. And 17 is the number here for drivers that are on track. And actually, a miracle here. Guess who's racing right now? Tony Kivet. He's 49 laps down, so obviously will not have an effect to the end of this race, but I mean, we saw him not even really start this event, and he's got a clean car just back in it in 25th, so good to see that Kivet has found his way onto the racetrack, was able to overcome his issues before the green flag dropped, and now he's in it to maybe pick up a couple of more positions if he can in the final, coming to 6 laps left in this race, as he'll dial up the leaders there, maybe giving them some good luck, or maybe just hanging around before he gets the wave around here. And indeed, he'll get the wave around this time by, so he'll shuffle in front of the leaders. He'll come back around the other end, and we will remain under the lights of the iRacing official pace car. So now, Lawson Peel in control of the race. No surprise here, as he got back around Eric Schaefer for the lead of the event. But Joe Sanchez made the pass on Adam Alashar, made the pass on Curtis Kelly, and now he's up to third. Now what this is going to do is put him on the inside of the outside behind the leaders, and if Peel makes a certain decision to go on the inside, that 55 is going to be directly behind him. If you're Peel or if you're Sanchez on either end, what do you do to try and cancel out the other heavy hitter to come away with the win?
I think if you're the leader right now, if you're Lawson Peel, you have to go in front of the 14. The 14's been good, but being on the outside of 1 and 2 is much tougher than if you were clear. So if he can try and bring the 14 far enough along to where he's side by side with Schaefer, it might just work out. But also, if you're Joe Sanchez and restarting third, you want to right on the bumper of that 22 to the point where if you accelerate before he does after you see the 12 go, not only do you not give yourself damage, but you get the giddy up to go on the 12. You have the direct bumper to bumper contact, which would cause fast acceleration, and it could actually drive him back up to the leader. So if he does this right, and if it works out his way, it could be very interesting going down the back straightaway.
Sanchez also has fresher tires than the guys up in front, so that is also worth noting. It does give him a little extra oomph by the time we go back to green flag racing, which it looks to be next time by, so it will indeed be 4 laps to go, not 5 or 6, so apologies for that. A very poor prediction there, but nonetheless, Sanchez is going to be in a money spot here if he can find the right place at the right time. And I think if for Sanchez, all you really need is for Schaefer and Peel to go side by side in turn 1. We've seen Peel clear, we've seen Schaefer clear, we've seen both of them do the same, but we've also seen the slight instances where they pick up on each other and they're door to door by the time they come into the first corner. If they're like that and they're losing time by the time they enter turn 1, going out of the short shoe to turn 2, 55 could get the best jump if he clears that 14, arc both 1 and 2 in the right way, and then just pounce on the back straightaway, where we've seen a lot of pivotal passes get made.
Yeah, I mean, he might try to go 3 wide if they get side by side and hold each other up. Of course, you have to be able to get a good enough launch to hold ground with your race leader to do so, but that's going to come down to the restart zone, who gets the push, who times it well. I say if the 55 has a chance to take it 3 wide in turn 3, he might just do it, but let's hope he doesn't have the same result as somebody else did here once when he was blowing up.
So here's a look on board with Sanchez. We'll go green with 4 laps to go. Of course, this is an organic restart to the finish. We are not in green-white checkered territory quite yet. We could get there if we get another yellow. But for now, we could end this race under regulation. Of course, this is a scheduled 80-lap race in Season 2. We got to that scheduled distance. In Season 3, we had to overshoot it by just a couple laps to get to a winner. Lawson Peel in control. Row number 1 inside. Schaefer outside. Row 1. Sanchez and Alashire to your row 2. Kevin Talia, Craig Lounslager up to P6. It's Lance Hill, Nicholas Vizzuti, CJ Munier, and Michael Newbraw to close off the top 10. 4 laps to go from the Brickyard, and it's all about what Peel can do to hold off the rest of the field. Green flag back in the air. It's a mostly even start. Peel's got a nose ahead, but so does Sanchez. He's on the inside of the 22 for second back to turn 1.
And Schaefer almost got to the outside of the 12, so it actually was... I still somehow worked out for your leader.
Around. Christopher Bishop in trouble. He's in the outside wall. Caution flag. Will it wave? Yes, it will. 4 laps to go. And it looks like we're in green-white checkered territory after all.
And there was almost contact for a second, as you were saying that they almost touched each other. But we'll see exactly what happened back here. Christopher Bishop, of course, just spinning like a top. We'll see how he ends up there. No front end on the car. He's in the battle of the modifieds, going into turn 1. Just looks like he kind of comes across the 93 of Kinsey and hard into the wall.
And just contact with Kinsey there, sends him around, and just once again, a lot of the guys in the back part of the field here on these restarts getting into trouble, especially on the arc to the first corner as Kinsey tried something down low. Murray was down there as well, also made contact, and Bishop has had a rough night. Same deal for Kinsey and Murray. All 3 of those guys, including more of them, just haven't had the best of races here tonight. And they're definitely looking forward to Circuit of the Americas by the time that comes around in 2 weeks' time. And so no changes for position. Luckily for Peel, he's going to keep the race lead. Schaefer will hold on a second. Joe Sanchez will remain in P3. And we will indeed step into our first attempt at a green-white checkered from the Brickyard. So I think one thing to take away from that restart is that Schaefer did hold off Sanchez. And now I got to ask Francisco, was that the saving grace for Peel? Could that have been the best restart possible? Or did you dodge a bullet potentially?
I think it could just as easily be both, because he got a good restart, but so did both cars behind him. So you have 2 possibilities. You have 3, really. You have a possibility where everything happens the exact same way once more. You have a situation where he gets a poorer restart than he did there, and those 2 are able to jump on him. And conversely, you have one where he gets a really good launch and they don't. So he's obviously hoping for the last of those 3 to happen so he can get a really good launch, kind of get out there, let them race each other for second. But of course, you still don't know exactly how well they're going to time off of you. The best thing you could do is try and catch him off guard. Try and go at different points in the restart zone, catch him off guard, and sort of hopefully that you get clear. And at that point, it's all on just you. But if they're able to get a good launch, you have to do whatever it takes to win the race at that point, because you know the draft is going to be a huge part. Whether it's the 22 behind you, whether it's the 55 behind you, you have to do something in order to win this race. If you're truly in the mindset of winning this race, and you have to do whatever it takes.
And we've seen moments where we've gotten these late race restarts and somebody makes a dive in turn 3, somebody goes full send, somebody makes contact, they go sideways, they go around. And you know the rest. Going to the start-finish line, that it can become chaotic in a matter of seconds when somebody makes a split decision move. And we may end up in the same place here tonight from Indianapolis. So we will go on a restart with officially 2 laps remaining in this race. So we will officially extend this race. So far, it looks like by 2 laps. We'll go to lap number 81 or 82, depending on how it tickers forward when we cross the start-finish line, because this will be 1 to green. We'll explain how the green-white checkered rules go for you for those watching over on the YouTube channel here at MaxSpeedTV. Of course, we'll double them up just like we've done every single restart here in this race. And of course, the only caveat is that we've got 2 laps left in the event. Of course, the field will go green as normal. If we get a caution before the leader catches the white flag and before it's officially displayed on the timing loop, then we will rack them up and do it all over again. We have a handful of attempts to get it finished, but if the leader does get to the white flag before a caution gets waived, or if everybody keeps it clean and the leader catches the white, then it's just an all-out brawl to the finish line no matter what happens, no matter who gets spun, no matter who gets hit. It's only the first person that crosses the start-finish line unofficially that will get the win here tonight from Indianapolis. And then there's the third alternative. If we waste all of our green-white checkered attempts and the leader cannot get to the white flag before a caution gets thrown, then we will end this race under yellow. It's happened before here in 4-wide history, so we could expect to see it happen again potentially. There's a good chance that it could happen, and the leader, by the time of that last yellow flag on the last attempt, is declared the unofficial winner. So Francisco, a lot of great drivers in this. Who do you think will shine out in the final laps of this event?
Probably the pace car driver.
All right, you know what? That's fair, but how about the drivers? How about the guys in race cars tonight?
Okay, the ones in race cars. Okay, somebody probably not in the. It's probably just Peel's looking strong. Schaefer's looking strong. I think one of them might get too good restart enough to match the other, and it's just going to open the door for Joe Sanchez on those better tires to just come and swoop in and kind of be the closer like Kevin Harvick.
You know, that's a fair judgment, though, for you to say the pace car is the MVP on this restart, because I was just about to pick the little scooter there on Gasoline Alley, but, you know.
I'll give you a fine like Vettel.
All right, well, this also is an Indy car, so they don't use mopeds to get around the racetrack. You know what? Boo me. But nonetheless, we're getting ready for a restart. 2 laps to go, 5 miles left from Indianapolis. Lawson Peel looking to capture win number 4. Schaefer looking to get win number 2. It's the same story for Joe Sanchez. Alashar on behind. Many of them looking still for win number 1. Pace car on a pit road. 2 laps left. Will this be the final attempt? Peel onto the gas, up to the gears. He's clear of Eric Schaefer. Field spreads to turn 1.
Not quite exactly clear, at least on the straightaway he's not. Schaefer's going to let him go into turn 1, though. He's going to settle into second. Sanchez trying to get clear. Oh, the Peel has a moment.
Peel's loose. He's in the wall. Sanchez is down low as well. They're spinning on the apron. Will the caution flag wave? They're catching more. Answer will be yes. Another attempt needed, and Lawson Peel and Joe Sanchez are caught up in the mess.
Wow. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be that. Wow. On the restart, I said Schaefer was letting him go, and just after that, Peel had probably stumbled just a little bit, made a mistake, and the car started sliding. They're starting to stack up behind him, and fortunately for the 22 Schaefer, he was able to get away. Not so much for Joe Sanchez and the rest of them. You see high above the racetrack, right there, hard on the wall, and everybody behind is involved.
Just couldn't save it whatsoever. He wiggled it a couple of times.
A big crash.
And that is the first big mistake we've seen out of the 12. We've seen him get loose before, but he saved it. And this time he almost did. Chased it up the wall. Got Schaefer and everybody to check up, and then Sanchez had nowhere to go either. He also got loose and overcorrected the car. Alashar was an innocent bystander, got involved. Craig Lownslugger, and then they come back up the track. And it is ugly in turn 2. As Schaefer comes away clean. Kevin D'Elia escapes for second. Unbelievable development as we'll get into another green-white checkered attempt.
Kenneth, I think you might think this is an accurate description here, but this is starting to feel like the 2000s.
Nah, it is looking a lot like it.
Oh my God. Kevin D'Elia has a chance to get his first Cup Series win, and I don't want to jinx it, but the guy who won here last season got his, well, he didn't get his first win, but it was a guy who had gotten his first win in that sort of time span, so I'd look out for him. And with all these cars that got damaged, fast repairs, who hasn't? And especially when you have people that made it through but have significant damage that they'll have to come down pit road, that'll cost them track position. So you look at guys like Schaefer, D'Elia, and as you look down the running order, this is how your top 5 is right now, as we have guys that have entered pit road. So this is how your lineup is most likely going to be for restart. You have Schaefer, D'Elia, Alashire, Hill, Jesse Prees is up in the top 5. Cody Kinsey, who's been involved in many of the messes here tonight, is going to be in the 6th position. Tyler Murray, who's struggled all night, is going to be in 7th. Brandon T. Banks in the top 10 and 8th. Daniel Michel still up in the top 10. And Lawson Peel on pit road is going to round out your top 10 you see there as cars are coming down pit road. But right now, anybody in the top 5 still has a legitimate chance to win this race, Kenneth. And if you're a driver like Kevin D'Elia, if you're also perhaps the likes of Jesse Prees, you've never won a cup race before. This is a big opportunity to make something happen and try and capture your first win in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series, because we've seen not too long ago, Lance Hill got his first win. The 14 of Alshire got his first win at Daytona last season, so it's been a while for him. He has that front end damage, decided not to pit, so he actually probably will not be a factor here with these long straightaways. That car is going to be significantly down on power, but maybe just trying to stay out and hope for the best at this point, because I don't think that's going to be a race-winning car. You see a couple more cars without front clips further back, so really it's going to be, can Jesse Prees get a first win? Can D'Elia get a first win? Or will we see Schaefer and Hill get their second wins on the season and their second career wins? Because for the most part, Kenneth, if you look at the front of the field, it is not filled with guys who have multiple series wins.
And it's also not filled with a lot of clean cars either, so it's been tough.
Look at Martinsville.
No doubt, yeah, it's been tough for a majority of the field. I think D'Elia and Hill are really the cleanest cars in this group, because many of them don't have front clips, don't have a hood, have crinkled front ends, rear ends, side ends, whatever you call it. And it's been rough, no doubt, for many of the field. One thing to note, Lawson Peel got his fast repair, but he is really heavily really on a deficit of track position. Joe Sanchez did not elect to take a fast repair or any repairs on his car, period, so he's staying out here. We'll see if they can find their way back into this mess if we get more yellows, but for now, it's Eric Schaefer, Kevin D'Elia on the front row. And also, if you recall from a couple of weeks back, where Eric Schaefer picked up his first win in 2022 at Pocono, he was in the same scenario. Green-white checkered restarts, late race clutch gene. And the 22 has the possibility to duplicate that effort from the Pocono Mountains and be able to lock up a win at Indianapolis and get win number 2 in Season 4.
And you know, Kenneth, I think something that probably slipped our minds is the fact that Schaefer, I'm pretty sure Schaefer brought out the first caution of the race today, so what a way to start the race versus how you may be ending.
Well, it shows you that it's not over until it's officially over, and Schaefer's in the opportunity. He's in the catbird seat to pick up his second win with a slightly damaged Chevrolet Camaro, but it's been good enough to hold up the front and keep himself on the front row, and he has yet to lose a position out of the top 2 really on any of these restarts. I mean, the lowest he's been is second in the past at least 15-20 laps. And
to think that he's in this position because of the strategy he pulled on the green flag pit stops. He was involved in the caution. He was in the back, had extra fuel, stayed out, caught the caution at the right time, put him up in the front of the field, and that strategy right there, that moment to pit under caution early in the race and stay out under green flag when everyone else was pitting, put him in this position, and it may just win in the race. He's got to have to go through a restart first as the green flag is out.
2 laps to go from Indianapolis. Can we finish this under green? Schaefer with a gorgeous restart to sail ahead of the field. They're side by side. The 2 Stonks Motorsports teammates try to tassel for third. Hill will make that pass clear, but Schaefer leads the field coming to turn 2.
Hill with the moment off of turn 1, and it's going to allow Alshire to challenge him back just briefly with no front end. That 14 is really trucking into that third spot, and you have a car on the outside wall. Kinsey, he's trying to keep it up against the wall. Cars are scattering, and no caution yet. I think he's pointing in the right direction, so he might be able to come back to the white flag.
So luckily, he doesn't go around. We stay under the green flag, and we have a potential battle for the lead. D'Elia trying to close in on the gap. Eric Schaefer will come out of turn 4, chase to the Art of Bricks, and catch the white flag. Curtis Kelly in the outside wall. Couple of them shuffle, but we will stay okay. Barney is the white flag. 1 more to go from Indy.
And you saw the snake trailing there for the first time tonight. He's trying to break the draft from D'Elia. D'Elia charged into. That's going to invite Lance Hill to get just a little bit closer. We'll see what happens. At the moment, it's 3 cars at the front of the field with a chance to still win. Hill's able to really keep it down underneath there. He's actually going to get loose off the corner. That may cost him a shot into turn 3, but here comes D'Elia. He's got to run. Schaefer's taking the defensive line. He's going to look to the bottom, and they're blocking.
Here comes D'Elia to the bottom, the 53 with a last-ditch effort. Schaefer chases up the track. Here comes Hill, possibly to make it a 3-horse race. Schaefer clears for a moment. D'Elia will tuck the nose back in, and it's a chase back to the yard of bricks for the final time. Side by side, D'Elia sideways. Schaefer with one last chance to block Lance Hill. Here comes Hill to the bottom, to the yard of bricks. It's Schaefer edging ahead, barely for his second win.
Oh, wow, that was an intense final half lap. They all got a run on each other. Schaefer had moments exiting turn 2 and turn 4, and wow, you have to feel for D'Elia there. He was really trying to get that first win, Kenneth. He got loose off of 4. You can't help but feel that if he had just kept it on the racetrack, that could have possibly been him winning the race. But how about Eric Schaefer? Even though he was clear for the lead halfway through that first straightaway, he still had to block that third run out of nowhere and almost stole that win. I think we need a second look of the final half lap and see that margin of victory. It was close as we further in the back. That's Brandon T. Banks, but let's get a second look at this right after this run is being made on the back straightaway. So here they come flag, and is actually still on the restart. So Hill struggled on the restart. He didn't get that great of a restart, and he was up down there battling Alishar, who had no front end for the first part of the restart. And considering that he made that gap up, Kenneth, you have to feel that Schaefer made a couple mistakes there, but I think he's probably glad that everything worked out the way it did, because for those two drivers to make up the gaps they did, it was very impressive.
Also with Alishar with an ailing Ford Mustang, his car severely down on power, like you said before the restart, Francisco. You nailed it on the head. And then Hill just all of a sudden picks up pace. It just looks like Schaefer just doesn't have the best lap here, and that's what allows D'Elia to catch up. He snake trails just a bit, like you mentioned. First time we saw that all race, surprisingly enough. And then it's just the 53 catching up. Schaefer getting loose there, that also brought them closer together. And then Lance Hill just had a really good turn 1, but just could not back it up in turn 2. And the car steps out at the wrong place, wrong time. Here comes a 38. Sideways, brings it down the track, is able to keep it straight for the most part as a couple of guys hit the wall behind. But even then some, the draft helping him in effect. And D'Elia made the move to the inside, tried one last time. Got to give props to all 3 of these guys for giving it all they have, and Schaefer for holding on despite the pressure.
And being clean. That's that's probably the very impressive part. You're racing this hard, but it's clean the whole time. He just gets loose off the corner. You see D'Elia get loose, and then here comes the 38, looking to the outside, looking to the inside. He's going to swing down there, tries to side draft, and by half a car length, Kenneth, look at that. That's very cool. I want to see if we can get a look from the blimp and see if the blimp was able to show us that one. From high above. It might get blocked by the pit entry. We'll see here. You see, yeah, he had a run. He had a big enough front to get there. The blip looks like it's going to get blocked by the pit lane, unfortunately. So there's no real other angle of that. So I think we do have one, though, that sits just as they come by for the Indy finish, usually from straight on across the start-finish line. I think that one is there somewhere. But either way, right there, half a car length. Very impressive stuff. That's probably one of our closest finish of the season.
In fact, I believe it is closest finish of the campaign. 32 hundredths of a second. Eric Schaefer gets the victory lane for the second time this year. And Pocono was his first in the same scenario. Green-white checkered, had to hold off the field in the closing laps. And Pocono, we described it in the broadcast, Francisco, as not the typical oval. It drives like a road course, drives very differently from the normal intermediates we see on the calendar. Indianapolis falls into the same category. And what do you know? Eric Schaefer gets a win at the second track in that category, Indianapolis, as he burns it down straight line to the yard of bricks. I know he can't kiss it in real life, but he'll try to with the race car as he continues to celebrate. There's Michael Newbraw to help with the celebrations and give him a nod. Schaefer, your winner once again.
What a great job again. He made such a fantastic recovery after being cautioned early on in the race, and that, again, I think what really won him the race above anything, and we talked about this on the restart, was the fact that he went on that alternate strategy when the cautions were coming out early in the race. He had more fuel. He was able to go longer. He gained the track position by staying out when that caution came out before they were forced to come down pit road. That gave him the track position he needed so that the rash of cautions that would come it would benefit him and keeping him up there, holding those faster guys down at the back end of the field. And then, of course, the chaos on the second to last restart really put him in a good position to win this race. So Eric Schaefer, it's been coming around on him this season. He had all that win last season, but so far this season, it's been turning around. And so far, he has 2 wins on the 2.5-mile racetracks.
It's been a great season so far on these types of tracks for Eric Schaefer, who gets the win by 32 hundredths of a second over Lance Hill, who was just short of the victory. And Hill made an impromptu pit stop earlier on tonight. We questioned whether he can make a 1-stop, then spun around, got 1 lap down on the racetrack to the leaders, and then rallied back with all the attrition near the end, finds his way to second. A great way to end it, I think, despite the early troubles. Adam Alashire, even with the front clip off of the race car and some power down on his Mustang, he's able to hold on for the final spot in the top 3. We'll talk to all those guys on the podium here by the time we roll through the results and finish. Lawson Peel, arguably one of the best cars all race long, just could not get back to the top 3. Was able to get back to 4th on the final restart, 2 seconds behind first place. Michael Newbraw somehow rallies to top 5 after having a struggle race all evening. Brandon Banks had crashed in turn 1, ends up back in 6th. CJ Munier follows to 7th. Then 8th will go to Jesse Prees in the 00. Daniel Michel, who led this race from the pole, is able to do good enough for 9th. And Joe Sanchez holds on to a top 10.
Christopher Bishop is going to be 11th. Cody Kinsey looking like in the 12th position. Tyler Murray down in 13th after his issues. Curtis Kelly in 14th. Kevin D'Elia, it says 15th, but I'm pretty sure he got 3rd there, Kenneth. So I'm not sure if this is a potential unserved penalty or what may have happened, but I think D'Elia probably got 3rd, and we'll determine that later on when he released official results. Nicholas Vizzuti down in 16th. Craig Lonsonger, the last of the finishers, running at the end of the race, of the primary finishers, I should say. Tristan Bailey finishing in 18th. Scott Healy in 19th. Marky Harris not having the race he wanted, down in 20th. And rounding out your field in 21st place is Cody Neal. In 21st, Jacob Smith, who was fast early on in that first part of the race, finishing 22nd. Tony Kivett, who joined early, midway through the race and was here for the second half, and ends up gaining 4 or 5 spots there. So not too bad for someone who missed half the race. In 23rd, AJ Green, unfortunately, had his fair share of issues early on in 24th. Austin Reedy departed us early in 25th. Brian M. Smith, unable to get another Indianapolis win, finishes 26th. And Austin Bloom, your last of the finishers.
So he finishes 27th, a rough route for many of these guys near the rear of the field. But all eyes are on Eric Schaefer, who comes across the line to win here tonight from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And also to note from race control, we did get word that Kevin D'Elia will get rewarded P3 here tonight. So he will, it was a non-clearable black flag there that he got assessed there at the end. Unfortunate there for the 53, but he does get the rewards and the points for 3rd. So we will talk to D'Elia by the time we get finished with the top 2. We'll talk first to the winner of it all, and is able to hold on in the final laps to win for the 2nd time in 2022, Eric Schaefer in the 22 machine. And Eric, I think from the caution flag that you guys had made the call to come down pit road, you were up front, you controlled the race, but then it came down to those final laps with D'Elia, Lance Hill, everybody trying to chase you. What was that like? And obviously, how do you feel picking up your 2nd win of the year?
Man, that was a crucial fight right there. I was hanging on for dear life. I saw Kevin send it into 3, and I knew I had to send it in there myself. And when I did, I got real tight. I ended up having to downshift to 4th, and then, yeah, me and Lance had a little drag race to the finish there. Man, I almost forgot to shift to 5th gear coming to the finish.
Well, it was a lot of pressure, but you were able to hold it off. You were able to keep the drivers at bay, and you win at, once again, another 2.5-mile track. Is there a magic here with you in these very unique ovals? Pocono was your first in similar sequences, green, white, checkers to the end. Indianapolis follows the same way. Is there something that you like about these 2.5-mile tracks and your positions near the end that allows you to get these wins with a lot of strength near the end?
Honestly, no, man. I run a lot of like be open stuff, and when I ran Pocono, it felt that was the most realistic that this next gen car has ever felt to me. And it felt like a B car running Pocono, so I got real comfortable with that one. This race right here was all luck, dude. when I was running up in the front, I was like, well, okay, I'm just gonna follow Lawson here. And then I kind of felt bad because he got real loose right there, and I was in the brakes, and we all just stacked up right there, man, and it just took everybody out. But I shouldn't have won this race. It should have been Lawson or Joe or Daniel, but I got real lucky right there.
Well, I don't believe there's any luck involved. Probably a little bit, but not 100%. You still had the willpower. You still had a very fast car near the end, and you're able to walk away with your second win of the season. And to start the broadcast, I had mentioned that Indianapolis was probably the most pivotal race of this regular season just because it's a shift from the first half where a lot of guys are still trying to get their jitters out, trying to get to know about this next-gen car or learn as much as they can. But then comes the second half of the regular season where you see a majority of the field start to make playoff pushes, start to go for wins, start to take more risks. For you, having 2 wins on the season already via Pocono and tonight, what is that regular season second half going to look like on the charge to the first round of the playoffs later this year?
Honestly, man, it's just gonna make it a little bit easier for me to run a lot of tracks and try to figure this car out a lot more. Because besides this league right here, I do not run this car at all. So it's definitely a learning curve for me every time I get into one of these races. But having that little bit of a cushion, man, is actually going to help out a lot. Just like I said, just learning these tracks and everything. And I typically rely on Lawson and Joe and Daniel the most because they run this in the Sinmax series. And Brandon, I rely on them the most. And yeah, it's just it's starting to grow on me, this car, a little bit. But I'm really excited to go through the last half of the season right now.
Very comfortable, of course. You're locked into the playoffs, so no worries about what's going to happen from here on to the first, or rather the last race of the regular season going to the first round of the playoffs. Eric, before we let you go, here from a very wild Brickyard race, is there anybody you just want to thank for making tonight's race and the entire season so far possible?
Yeah, man, appreciate you and Francisco putting on a heck of a broadcast. I really do. Appreciate Tyler and all the admins in the league, man. It's a good group of guys we run with and everything else, and all the Drinking Bros guys, man. We have a good time over there and just hang out and stuff. And shout out to Paul's Setup Shop and everybody for watching. And yeah, man, thank you. I appreciate it.
A big win here tonight from Indianapolis. Eric, on behalf of our team, I want to congratulate you on your win here tonight in the final laps. And, of course, wishing you the best of luck, wishing you a very safe and happy 1-week break before we kick things off at COTA in 2 weeks' time.
Appreciate you, man.
That's Eric Schaefer, victory lane once again. He occupies second time this year. He does it. And this time it's at Indianapolis after getting the first win at the Pocono Raceway just a couple races back. We'll shuffle to second place, and it's a last lap charge by Lance Hill that didn't go the best for him. He was just short of the start-finish line for the win, but no doubt a lot of positivity for this 38. Lance Hill's caught up trackside with our very own Francisco Bacallao.
Well, Lance, it was a strong start. An interesting moment there on the green flag pit stops when you got loose and entered pit road, and it was a great finish. Almost there for that win. Just half a. I think we'll start with that green flag pit stop. You had gotten loose off 4 and slid down the racetrack. Thought better than trying to possibly hitting that pit wall. You decided to come in, do the pit stop, and at that point in the race, what were you thinking?
Oh, man, to be honest with you, I didn't really expect my race to be over. I mean, I knew there was going to be cautions after that, and we was going to be pitting in about 3 laps anyway, so I really just took the opportunity to just, send it down pit road and, get my fresh tires and my fuel and go back out and try to keep from going a lap down, which eventually happened after I got loose again off of, I think, 2 and lost the lead lap, but eventually got that back and really just fought hard all night, getting loose here and there, nearly spinning out, and really I'm blessed to finish second after all that.
Yeah, we saw pretty much everybody was struggling with race cars. Can you kind of explain us just how bad was the looseness of the race cars? Because we saw the whole.
Yeah, it was worse than what I expected it to be. Like every time, 3 and 4 was not bad at all. 3 and 4 was really good. But 1 and 2 was just like almost unbearable, almost undrivable. It felt at times, and especially on fresh tires, it was undrivable. It felt, and it was a little bit tighter under braking, and then as soon as you would get off the brakes and start getting into the throttle, the rear end would just snap around so quickly you almost couldn't even save it. So it was worse than what I expected it to be, and it's probably the worst you're probably going to see all season, to be honest.
And of course, despite all of that, you were there at the end and made the hard charge for the win. Can you kind of take a start and what more you could have possibly have done to find an extra car length?
There's only like really one thing I could have done, and it probably wouldn't have been the best move in the world, and that was to make it 3 wide. At some point in time, I really feel like I would have had a good shot, to push Kevin there if I didn't get loose off 2, and maybe give him a good shove off into 3, and possibly make him get a little bit loose and stop into the 22. But I feel like that might not have been the cleanest choice after the race I had all day. So I think I really just had to take what I could get there and just not make a stupid move and just put myself in a position to at least finish second, and I feel like that run to the finish there was the best shot I really had.
Of course, it's still a solid finish for you, Lance, and you were able to get good points out of the day. And a lot of people, a lot of teammates, you saw a lot of teamwork going on there, you and your teammates. A lot of people went into making this effort possible, so we'll give you the floor to give the thanks and the shout-outs to all of those that were a part of it.
Yeah, I wanted to thank my parents for watching the broadcast, you guys for broadcasting. I want to thank my teammates, AJ, Colin, Adam, and Curtis for just being, great teammates. I couldn't be here without them, and really hope that we all can be seen in the Final 5 one at the end of the season. And I want to just thank all my friends for, being friends and supporting me, and yeah, I think that's about it.
We appreciate you taking the time with us, Lance. Unfortunately, again, just a little bit short, but we hope to see you in 2 weeks at COTA to try and get another road course win on the season. Enjoy the break.
Yeah, I hope to be the first interview.
It's Lance Hill in the 38, caps off a second place finish, 32/100ths of a second short, but that's still a second place points position. And of course, like Francisco said, a chance to back things up on the road course in a couple of weeks' time when we head to the heart of Texas in Austin and go for Circuit of the Americas. We'll talk to the driver who is officially scored 3rd, unofficially 15th, of course, with the black flag issued by iRacing, but it is a podium finish for Kevin D'Elia. Kevin, an unbelievable run to the finish. Multiple chances. You were fighting there with Schaefer, fighting with Hill in the final corners. Walk us through your perspective there on that final green-white checkered attempt.
I mean, I saw Schaefer had damage, and I knew I had the speed to get past him. I was just kind of waiting my time, and when we got to the backstretch on the last lap, it was just, go for it. And 3 and 4, we were running pretty close, and just coming out of 4, I lost it. And, yep. That's that. I think I could have got him if I would have kept into it, but guess we'll never know.
And nonetheless, still a fantastic charge after starting P11 tonight. And it looked like a lot of drivers had struggles with this car, very loose in 1 and 2. Also the same issue in 3 and 4. Maybe a little bit mitigated. It was mostly in 1 and 2. How was it to drive this car on the limit? Because it looked like this car just wanted to wrestle out of the driver's hands at every single moment. How was it for you? Did you have a lot of problems trying to get this car straightened out, or was it just sort of a smooth sail from start to finish?
After about 5 or 10 laps, the car started coming in. 3 and 4 was lap 1 and 2. 3 and 4 was kind of sketchy, but after that, 3 and 4, as long as you weren't next to somebody, the car stayed pretty straight, at least for me. 1 started getting better throughout the run, but 2 was always just baby steps through it. It was terrifying. It was like somebody poured oil all over the track there.
We heard Tyler Murray say that it drove like a dump truck on ice, and I think if we asked a bunch of the drivers tonight, I think they would probably give the same expression to how this car was. But it's a 3rd place finish for you, Kevin, in this race at Indianapolis. What is this going to mean for a potential playoff push by the time we get to the second half of the season starting at COTA in 2 weeks?
I think it's just I got to keep up the top 10s and the top 5s and hopefully go for wins, and hopefully that gets me into the playoffs. We'll see. I definitely need a win.
Well, no doubt this is a great optimistic first step in the door to make it to the Championship 5 later on in the year. Kevin, a great result here tonight from the Brickyard. Before we let you go, is there anybody you just want to thank for making this all happen?
I want to thank Schaefer for a heck of a last couple laps. That was a blast. also, I want to thank everybody over at Stonks and thank everybody at 4Wide for putting this on. This is a blast.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time, Kevin. On behalf of our team, want to congratulate you on the 3rd place finish officially here tonight from Indianapolis. And of course, we hope you enjoy the break that we have next week. We hope to see you back at it again when we get road course racing for the 2nd time this year.
All right, thank you.
That's Kevin DeLee in the 53. Is scored 15th unofficially on the screen, but to remind you, race control is rewarding Kevin DeLee with a 3rd place finish, and deservingly so. DeLee ran well all the way at the end and put the fight to your inevitable race winner, Eric Schaefer. So we'll toss it back up to the broadcast booth, and Francisco, obviously not the clean race that we were expecting out of this track based on the trends from seasons ago, but it is a new race. I mean, we mentioned possibilities, how this track throws everything in the kitchen sink along with it. Tonight was no different, but we saw a great battle for the win at the end.
Yeah, in the end, we did get rewarded to a fantastic finish there. We saw that the 22 of Eric Schaefer was able to hold after avoiding that crash there just on the restart before, held off charges from the 53 of D'Elia, held off charges from the 38 of Lance Hill, and was able to just get to the line exactly when he had to win his 2nd race of the season. And, you know, again, we talked about what the middle of the race looked like, flag run. I really do think that what really made this race happen for him was the fact that he had pitted under one of those cautions early on in the race, was able to go longer in fuel, and didn't have to pit. By the time that caution came out in the middle portion of the race, it gave him that track position. Everybody came back down pit road, and he was able to restart in the top 5 where he hadn't been before. So I really do think that was the moment that gave him the track to showcase the speed that he had in order to make himself a contender at the end. And he was able to pull it off. He made a couple of mistakes, but fortunately for him, the rest did too, and he just did enough. And it may not be perfect, it may not be pretty, but if it's enough to come across the line for the win, then, I mean, I don't think you can complain too much about it.
So Eric Schaefer gets win number 2 in Season 4 of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series, and right in front of your screen is where we have yet to go. COTA will be the next one on the calendar, our 2nd road course race of this season, and the first time we even ever see COTA on the schedule at all in 4Wide Racing history. So be sure to tune in for that. That's 2 weeks from tonight, April 27th, of course. Same time, same place, 9:10 p.m. Eastern, and you won't miss any of the action right here on the MaxSpeedTV YouTube channel. For now, though, we'll have a 1-week break. We'll settle things off. We won't be live next Wednesday night, but be sure we're going to be ready for a great one at Circuit of the Americas. We're going to come back with a lot of fire in our bellies, and then we'll head to the Bristol night race. 2nd time we go night racing in this season, and then we'll go all the way to the regular season finale at Kansas. Started off in the Music City and Nashville Superspeedway that ultimately trickles down to the Texas Motor Speedway, the final race in the Championship 5 for Season 4 of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series. So that does it for round number 10 tonight from the Brickyard. A big congratulations to Eric Schaefer on win number 2 on the campaign. And of course, want to thank everybody that makes it happen over on the 4Wide side. For Tyler Murray, the league owner, and all of the drivers, all the people in the race council, everybody that makes these races happen each and every week, brings us this spectacle on Wednesday nights. And for all of us at MaxSpeedTV, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long from the Yard of Bricks. We'll go 2 weeks from tonight. Road course racing once more. Lance Hill with a chance to defend. But for now, Eric Schaefer, your winner from Indy.